A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to burglary detail. For more than 2 months, a wave of safe burglaries has been sweeping your city. Apparently, it's the work of professionals. The jobs are well planned, well executed. There's no lead to the whereabouts of the suspects. Your job? Get them. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Sunday, June 8th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of burglary division, safe detail. My partner's Bill Lockwood. The boss is Captain Wisdom. My name's Friday. I was on the way back to the office, and it was 8:36 a.m. when I got to room 45, burglary division.
Joe?
Oh, hi, Smith.
There's a note in the book for us from the captain about your partner, Lockwood.
Yeah, what's that?
Forgot to make that sick report on him yesterday. Did you call him? How's his leg?
Well, I talked to him on the phone last night. Pretty bad ankle sprain. Doctor figures he'll be out for a couple of weeks anyway. Who's the fellow you got there?
Suspect Jones and McCready picked up on stakeout, drugstore, 3rd and Ventura.
What do you got on him?
McCready says they picked him up about 4:45 this morning.
Yeah.
He and Jones were staked out inside the drugstore. Saw this fellow drive up in the car, get out, and try the front door of the place. And he went around and back of the place, tried the back door, then he came around in front again, tried to jimmy the door. Finally gave up, got in his car, and started to drive off. Jones and McCready followed him, picked him up, and brought him in.
Where's Jones and McCready now, do you know?
I told him to go ahead home. No reason for him to hang around. We carried the thing from here.
What have you done so far? Did you check him through R&I yet?
Call Frank Cunningham. He's doing it now.
What's his name?
According to his identification, it's Charles W. Boyd, an address at 239 West 92nd Street. That's what he tells us anyway.
Mm-hmm. Is that your name, fella?
Yeah, that's my name. Saw my identification. No reason for me to lie. You can check me out.
All right. Hold your hand up there. I'll get these cuffs off you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, there you are.
Yeah, thanks. Sure tired sitting here handcuffed, sitting in one place.
Frank, you want to tell Gaffney we'll be down in the interrogation room? When R&I calls back, tell him to transfer it in there, would you?
Yeah, okay, I'll meet you there.
All right, thanks. All right, boy, let's go. I can talk to you down the hall.
Yeah, let's get this thing over with. I don't feel good. I want to get out of here.
What are you shaking for? There's nothing to get nervous about. Are you sick?
Yeah, I haven't been feeling good at all the last couple of days. Wouldn't you know it? I was smoked. Hey, say, would you happen to have a cigarette, please?
Yeah. Here.
Thanks.
There's a light for you.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
All right. Turn around a minute, will you? Let me look at your eyes.
Huh?
Turn around. All right, let's go.
It's okay, Joe. I told Gaffney he'll put through the call tomorrow night.
Oh, that's fine.
You sure this won't take long? I'd like to get out of here and get home. I've been sick for a week. I ought to be in bed right now.
We'll make it as fast as we can. All right, in here.
Have a chair, Boyd.
Yeah.
All right, mister. You say you're not feeling well, you're tired, you want to go home. So are we. We've been working all night. Now, how about getting to the bottom of this thing?
I'm sure I'm all for it. Try to explain to the guys who picked me up. I don't know what it's all about. Ask me anything you want.
Now, let's start it here, Boyd. What were you doing out there hanging around that drugstore at 4:45 this morning?
It's the same thing I told the other officers. I was sick. I wanted to get something for my nerves. Jumpy as a cat. I couldn't sleep.
Well, the drugstore was closed. That was pretty obvious, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It was. I just drove up there, tried the door, and I saw the joint was closed, so I left. That's all there is to it. Just what I told the other
No, that's not true, Boyd, and you know it isn't. You hung around the store for more than 10 minutes. You tried the front door, then you waited a couple of minutes. You went around to the back. You tried to get in back there. You couldn't make it, so you came around front again. You tried to jimmy the front door, didn't you?
No, that's not it. You got it all wrong.
How about this, Boyd? This your crowbar?
Yeah, what about it? Just a car tool used to fix flat tires. Carry it around all the time in the car.
You carry it on you?
No, not all the time. I just happen to have it, that's all.
Now, look, Boyd, that's not going to get it. The officers that picked you up saw you using this bar in the door of that drugstore. I thought you were willing to get on to facts. You were going to square with us. How about it?
Sure, I'll square with you. I wanted to get over as much as you do. Just tell me what you want to know.
All we want is the truth. This address on your ID, the one you gave us, is that your true address? You're living there now?
Yeah, that's right. Check it out if you want. I'm not lying. No reason to lie.
We think there is. This address of yours is just about 10 miles away from where you were picked up. Now you tell us how much sense it makes driving 10 miles to a drugstore at 4:30 in the morning.
Well, I had to. I was sick. It was the only place open.
You're lying and you know it, mister. You had to pass at least 2 all-night drugstores on the way. Why couldn't you stop at one of those?
I didn't see any stores open. I was sick. I just kept driving until I spotted a place I thought was open. Looked to me like it was open. A lot of lights in the window, inside the store, too. I didn't know it was closed, so I tried the door.
You usually try doors with a crowbar, Boyd?
Oh, look, what are you getting at? You think I was trying to break in that place?
Yeah, that's what we think.
Well, what for? Well, I want to break in there. I wanted to get something for my nerves, that's all. I wanted to find a drugstore. Why should I break to open a place and just get a bottle of medicine? Huh?
We don't think you were looking for medicine, Boyd.
Well, then what was it? Well, what do you figure?
This is what we figure, mister. You were going in that store to burglarize the safe. The area is the same, the time element's right, so is the type of business. The M.O. matches right down the line.
I don't know what you're talking about.
6 safe jobs in the last 2 months. The same time element, the same general area. Drugstores, liquor stores, and markets. What about it?
I don't know what you're talking about. It's the truth. I'm not a burglar. You got me wrong. I never touched a safe in my life.
How many times you been arrested, mister?
Huh?
How many times you been arrested?
Well, a couple of times. I've been picked up. Nothing serious, though, so help me. It's the truth. I never touched a safe in my whole life.
It's not going to do much good lying to us, Boyd. We'll get everything we need from records.
Well, I got a record. I ain't denying that, but I'm no burglar.
Now, what were you doing at 4:45 this morning trying to get in that drugstore if you're not a burglar?
I tried to explain to you. I wasn't trying to break in. I needed some medicine, something for my nerves. I thought the place was open. I'm a sick man. I swear on a Bible officer. That's just the way it was.
I get it. Yeah, Friday talking. Oh, yeah, Connie. Charles Boyd. Yeah, that's right. That's him. What do you got? Uh-huh. All the same. I see. Give me the last 2 arrests. No, the last 2 arrests again. Yeah. May 9th, May 22nd. All right, Cunningham. Yeah, thanks very much. Frank, you got that folder there, those crime reports?
Yeah, here you are. What do you have to say?
Boyd was in custody May 9th, May 22nd.
What was he in on?
Narcotics. He's a user. Long record. It's all the same, though. Never been picked up for anything but narcotics.
Just about rules him out, huh? 9th and the 22nd. If he was in jail, he couldn't have had anything to do with those last 2 judges.
Yeah, that's about the size of it.
You got it straight now, huh? I told you. You thought I was lying, didn't you? I'm no burglar. You know what my record is. I never touched a safe in my life.
Just checking it out, Boyd. Sometimes it happens this way.
Sure. No hard feelings. I'll take off now and go home. I'm not feeling well at all. I guess it's okay if
No, you just sit still, Boyd. You're not going yet.
What do you mean?
Red tab on your card down at the Record Bureau. Your last arrest, May 22nd, violation State Narcotics Act. You went out on a $1,500 bail.
Yeah, that's right. It was all legal. I paid for it.
Why didn't you show up for your preliminary hearing? We got a bench warrant for your arrest.
Oh, no, they wouldn't do that to me, would they? I was sick in bed. I couldn't make it to court. You just look at me. You can tell, can't you? I ought to be in bed.
Yeah, you don't look good at all.
Of course I don't. I'm a sick man, really sick. I'll be in a hospital.
Well, maybe that's where they'll send you. We continued questioning the suspect, Charles Boyd, who finally admitted that he'd gone to the drugstore early that morning for the purpose of burglarizing the place to obtain narcotics. He told us it was his first attempt at burglary, and further interrogation proved beyond a doubt he had nothing to do with the current wave of safe burglaries. He was booked on the bench warrant, and narcotics detail was notified of his arrest. For all practical purposes, we were right back where we started from 2 months before, when the campaign of safe jobs first started. Boyd was just another in a long line of possible suspects who had to be tracked down and checked out. In the final analysis, they meant nothing to the case, but tracking them down and checking them out meant long hours of legwork, days, even weeks, and then more hours spent interrogating them. Boyd typified the possible suspect. He added nothing, but he couldn't be ignored. In the weeks that followed, stakeouts continued in the general area where the safe burglaries had been operating. No further leads. The investigation went on. On June 17th, Frank Smith and I drove out to the San Fernando Valley to check a lead on a possible suspect we'd gotten from one of our informants. His information was that the possible suspect, an ex-convict by the name of Mark Chandler, who'd served time for burglary, had apparently come into some money recently. Through the parole office, we located Chandler on a chicken ranch just outside of Van Nuys.
Yeah, I've been out here almost 3 months now. Nice life. Pretty hard work, though. Got a few routine questions for you, Mark. Like we told you with the burglary detail, I guess you know why we're out here.
Yeah, I think I get the idea. I admit there was a time when you wouldn't be very welcome, but right now it's different. Anything I can do to help, it's all right, fellas.
We're going to lay it right on the table for you, Mark. You own this place, do you?
Yeah, that's right. Me and my brother.
Where'd the money come from?
My brother. He set the whole thing up.
You say you and your brother. Whose money bought the place, Mark?
Well, my brother made the down payment. You can check on it. The whole deal went through escrow right down here at the local bank. What's the deal anyway? Didn't you check with my parole officer?
Yeah, we checked with Galloway. He told us you were still on active parole. You were running a chicken ranch. Didn't say it was for your brother, though.
Well, I thought I filled him in on it. I didn't have enough cash to swing the deal. My brother put up most of the dough. I only had $800.
That's your car back there in the driveway, Mark?
No, it's my brother's. Nice one, huh?
Yeah.
I got permission from the parole officer to drive. Say, would you mind walking back with me to the Brooder Shack? I got a new batch of Rhode Islands in this morning. Day-old chicks. Got to be sure the heat's right.
Yeah, all right.
There's a lot of work around a place like this. I just built those pens there.
They're nice.
Good-looking flock of chicks there, wouldn't you say? 4 weeks old. Those are bar drops. Notice how they're starting to feather out already, getting nice and heavy? Make wonderful fryers, you know.
Oh, that's all?
Oh, yeah. Just a minute. Hey, will you look at that mash rack? They like fiends. I just filled that thing an hour ago. That's where the money goes. You know that mash goes for better than $5 a sack?
Look, we don't want to take too much of your time, Chandler. We can see you're busy. We've got a couple of dates we'd like to check with you. Where you were, what you did.
Oh, sure, fellow. Just let me check the temperature in the Brooder house here. It won't take a minute. Hey, come on in.
All right.
They're pretty cute when they're small, huh? Let me see here.
Just look at that, huh, Joe? Piled all over each other. Must be more than 1,000 of them.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, just right. 89. Got to watch them pretty close the first week. Fell up the road, lost a big batch last week. Heating element in the Brooder went out overnight. Oh, yeah, got to shove that door hard. Sticks a little.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Okay, what else was it, officers? Glad to help you any way I can.
Those dates we want to check, Mark. It was almost a month ago, the week ending May 7th.
Yeah.
Can you account for your time on that weekend, where you were, what you did?
The 7th? Let's see. Yeah, I was here.
Any way of proving that?
Yeah, I think so. I started here the 23rd of April. Been here every night since.
Anyone we can check with on that?
Well, my brother and his wife. They were here, they can tell you. Neighbors, too. They come over for cards on the weekend. Come to think of it, I remember my parole officer was out to see me one of those weekends. I'm pretty sure of it. You can check with him.
All right, Mark, thanks.
Hey, what's the pitch anyway, Sergeant? The safe jobs around town, is that it?
That's it. You heard anything, Mark? Any rumbles at all?
No, sorry. This job keeps me pretty close to home. I don't get around at all. Maybe 2-3 nights a month. That's the only time I get out.
That's all we're asking about. Before we left the suspect, Mark Chandler, we called his parole officer, and he substantiated the fact that he visited with Chandler on the night of May 7th, the date of one of the safe burglaries. We checked with his brother, his sister-in-law, and the neighbors, and all of them fully corroborated his story. Before we left, we were satisfied that Chandler had nothing to do with the safe burglaries. It was just another of the more than 100 possibles that we'd checked out in the course of the investigation. On June 22nd, we got a lead on still another one. It came from the proprietor of a fix-it shop on West Pico Boulevard near Normandy. We drove out to interview him. He gave his name as Harold Van Owen.
Yeah, just a minute, officers. Be with you in a minute, all right?
Yeah, okay.
I have to get these keys made. The lady will be back soon. Says she needs them.
What time you got, Frank?
10 to 12. Getting hungry?
Well, I didn't have much breakfast. How about dropping by Felipe's, all right?
Fits me. I could use a good French dip sandwich. Haven't been down there for a while.
All right, officer. Sorry to keep you waiting. I had to get keys done. I promised the woman.
That's all right, Mr. Van Owen. Well, what was it you wanted to see us about?
Well, I don't know, to tell the truth. Maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing at all. I just don't know. Figured I ought to let somebody know about it, so.
Yes, sir?
A young fellow was in here the day before yesterday. Said his name was Ralph McKinley. Told me he lived around the neighborhood, but I don't think I ever saw him before. He didn't act right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Said he's an inventor. I doubt it, though. He just didn't look the part to me. A young fellow, dresses pretty flashy. Never met an inventor that looked like that before.
Well, what do you want with you, sir?
He wanted me to make up a piece of machinery for him. He said it was a special part of a new gadget he was working on. He brought in his own drawing of the thing. I got it down here someplace.
What did the young fellow look like? Would you remember that?
Oh, typical poolroom cowboy, I guess. About 29, 30 years old. Thin side, tall. Got a lot of gray hair for a young fella. Hair was almost gray. Here's the drawing. This is what he wants me to make up for him.
What do you think it's supposed to be?
Miss McKinley said it was part of a new hydraulic press he's working on. I got a few doubts about that.
How do you mean?
Oh, I've been tinkering around in this business long enough to know what goes into a hydraulic press. Can't see where this thing fits in at all.
Well, what's your idea on it?
I think it's a pull. Only one job they're any good for.
Yeah.
Breaking into a safe.
Before we left the fix-it shop, Van Owen gave us a complete description of Ralph McKinley, the man who'd ordered the gadget made for him. We showed him several mug shots of possible suspects, but he was unable to make any identification. Van Owen told us that McKinley said he'd call back in about 3 or 4 days to pick it up. Except for the man's chance remark that he lived in the neighborhood, Van Owen had no idea as to his whereabouts. 12:10 p.m. We drove back to the office and made arrangements for an immediate stakeout at the fix-it shop. Then we checked the name and description of Ralph McKinley through R&I and through the staff's office. It got us nothing. As far as we could find out, he had no previous criminal record. The end of the week came and went. The man known as McKinley failed to show up at Van Owen's fix-it shop to pick up the article that he'd ordered. 8 o'clock Monday morning, June 28th. We got the report and we checked in for work. Despite all precautions, another safe job had occurred over the weekend, this time at a liquor store on South Alvarado. The time, the area, and the M.O. were generally the same. Frank and I drove out to the location. The store was located in the middle of the block, directly beneath an apartment hotel. 2 of the rooms on the second floor of the hotel were situated above the liquor store. In one of these rooms, a hole had been ripped in the floor, a hole large enough to allow a man to pass through it and gain access to the liquor store directly beneath. After we checked over the room, we put in a call for Ray Pinker and the crime lab crew. Then we went downstairs to interview the manager of the hotel, Clyde Winters.
Yeah, I rented that room Friday night. A couple of young fellows. They checked in a few minutes before 7. I figure I'm a pretty good judge of faces. It sure didn't look like thieves to me.
How'd they register, Mr. Winters?
Well, one signed his name was Gordon. The other one was Richardson, I think. Yeah, the register's right outside on the desk. You can check it if you like.
Yes, sir, we'd like to do that. When these 2 men, Gordon and Richardson, checked in here, did they have any baggage with them? Would you know that?
Oh, yes. If they had baggage, they took most of it with them, though. They left a few old clothes behind. They must have left for the back way sometime late Sunday night, I figure. Imagine tearing up the floor of that room. The lousy bums. I sure like to get my hands on them.
Did they have a car, do you know?
Yeah, they had a car. I got the license number, too.
You think you'd recognize the 2 men if you saw them again?
Oh, I'd take them in a minute.
You sure of that, are you?
Positive. I'd know him in a minute, especially the young fellow Richardson. He couldn't have been more than 27, 28 years old.
Yeah.
Hair was gray, almost completely gray.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
To show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Prove Fatima quality yourself. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Ask your dealer for Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
June 28, 8:55 a.m. The crime lab crew arrived at the scene of the latest safe burglary, the liquor store on South Alvarado, and began their investigation. The store was gone over thoroughly, as well as the hotel room directly above it, through which the burglars had gained access by ripping a hole in the floor. In the store itself, a few feet from the safe, the men from the crime lab found what appeared to be a broken button, probably off a coat. They also found a crumpled envelope on the floor with the name F. Gordon on it, written in pencil. Along with the half a dozen pieces of clothing found in the hotel room, the items were taken back to the crime lab for further examination. 9:10 a.m. After we finished interviewing the hotel manager, Clyde Winters, Frank Smith and I returned to the office with the license number and description of the suspect's car, as well as exemplars of their handwriting which we'd obtained from the hotel register. We gave our DMV all the information on the car, and they began an immediate check. The vehicle was registered in the name of Ralph McKinley at a Bronson Avenue address. The legal owner was a local bank. We checked the Bronson Avenue place, but they told us there that the man known as McKinley had moved out 7 months before. They had no information on his whereabouts. 10:20 a.m. We talked to the people at the bank which held the pink slip on the car. They told us that the last 2 monthly payments on the car had been mailed in from a Clifford Street address. Frank and I drove out to the location, a one-story duplex apartment building near the intersection of Clifford and Beverly Boulevard.
Nice units, aren't they? Going up all over town.
They seem to be, don't they?
I'll get it.
Yeah?
Your name, Ralph McKinley?
Yeah, that's right. What?
Police officers, you want to get your coat, McKinley? I'd like to talk to you downtown.
What for? What's it all about?
Anybody else living here with you?
No, just myself. Look, you mind telling me what this is all about?
Got a few questions we'd like to ask you. Won't take long.
I can't go with you now. I got a business appointment, half an hour. I've been out of town the last couple of months. I'm due back on the job today.
That's all?
Yeah, I just can't spare the time. Appointments all day long. I got a whole flock of business I have to clear up.
Well, that makes us even. Come on, let's go. Well, there wasn't much doubt about McKinley. He fitted the suspect's description almost perfectly. Tall, slight build, approximately 29 years of age, prematurely gray hair. We went over the apartment, but there was no sign of anyone else on the premises. No sign of any of the loot taken in the burglary. We checked the adjoining garage, but it was empty. The suspect refused to admit that he even owned a car. Frank got on the phone, called the office, and arranged for an immediate stakeout on the apartment. When the men arrived, we drove McKinley back to the city hall and took him to the interrogation room. He was arrogant and uncooperative. We talked to him for a full hour, but he'd admit nothing. Frank left and went down the street to the crime lab to check with Ray Pinker on his findings. I continued questioning McKinley.
I don't care what the old man says. I don't know what you're talking about.
He described you perfectly. He says you were in his fix-it shop a little over a week ago. You told him you were an inventor. You ordered this gadget from him here.
I don't get it. What's that supposed to prove?
Well, you admit you went to the old man. You had him make this thing up for you, didn't you?
I don't admit anything. Why should I?
All we're looking for is a straight story. We're going to get it sooner or later, McKinley. Might as well be now.
You're getting nothing from me. I don't have to tell you a thing.
How about the hotel over on South Alvarado? You stay there last weekend?
No, of course not. Why should I go to a hotel? I stayed at my place.
Thought you said you'd been away. You just got back in town.
Sure, that's what I said. I just got back last week.
Well, then you didn't stay at that hotel in South Alvarado.
I told you I didn't. I don't even know the place.
But you know Mr. Van Owen, the old fellow at the fix-it shop.
I don't know him either. I don't even go near that end of town.
What end of town?
What are you talking about? Where you said the shop is?
I didn't mention where it was. I asked you if you knew a Mr. Van Owen, if you ever went to his fix-it shop to order anything.
Look, what are you lying for? What's the angle?
No angle, McKinley. I told you I like to have a straight story, that's all.
Well, you got it, mister. You heard everything I have to say. I don't know any old man. I don't know anything about that hotel.
Friday talking. Yeah, Doc. How'd it go? Uh-huh. I see. Yeah, we'll pick it up. No, we'll pick it up. Right. Thanks a lot. You don't lie very good, McKinley.
Now, what are you talking about?
That was our handwriting man. He just finished checking those exemplars of your handwriting we got from you. He compared them to a signature in the register at the hotel in South Alvarado.
I already told you. I don't know the place.
Young fellow by the name of Richardson checked in there Friday night about 7 o'clock. He signed the register. The signature's in your handwriting, McKinley.
Yeah, sure.
That's right.
I don't know the place. I've never been there.
Now, look, you're going to have to do better than that, fella. The hotel manager's on his way down here now to identify you. So's Mr. Van Owen from that fix-it shop. Maybe you better piece together a new story, huh?
You got my story, cop. I was out of town. You can't prove I wasn't.
All right, McKinley, any way you want it.
Joe?
Hi, how'd it go?
Pretty good. Ray Pinker finished checking. I stepped to crime lab. Here's a report on it.
Thank you.
Just about sews it up, no doubt about it.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, what is it this time? More of your phony charges? I want out of here.
Can't be done, McKinley. Report on the clothes found in that hotel room.
They're not my clothes. I wasn't even in the place.
I'd say you were. Cleaning tags on a pair of trousers and one of the coats. Traced them through the dry cleaners to you.
It's a lie. I told you I wasn't in the place.
All right, there's something else here, fella. They ran tests on all the clothes they found in your room. They found particles of fire clay from the safe that you broke into down below in the liquor store. Your coat, your trousers, they were covered with the stuff.
Save your breath, will you?
And when you ripped up the floor of that hotel room, you picked up something else on the clothes. Particles of floor varnish. Small bits of wood, they all tie in.
You through?
No, not quite. A piece of broken coat button we picked up a couple of feet from the safe. They matched it up with one of the buttons on your coat, a broken one. The pieces fit perfectly.
Kenley, how about it?
Got my story.
No, you got a lot to explain.
I'll take my chances.
What's the pitch, McKinley? You know you got to come up with a story. It might as well be now.
There's no story to it. I was out of town. I told you that.
Why don't you get off it, mister? It's not going to take much to make a liar out of you. You know that, don't you?
Look, why don't you get off my back, the two of you? I told you everything I'm going to tell you.
Sit down, McKinley.
I'm getting out of
Sit
here.
down.
All right. Go ahead. I can wait it out as long as you can.
I doubt that.
I'll get it.
All right.
That's speaking. How's it? Oh, yeah, Jim. What is it? That's right. When? Mm-hmm. Fine. Yeah. Thanks. Piece of news for you, McKinley.
Yeah?
Your partner came back to your place a few minutes ago. Our men picked him up. They're bringing him in now.
Well, there's news to me. I don't have any partner. I'm in business for myself.
That's what your partner figures. Tell me he claims you got all the money. Thinks you were trying to run out on it.
Oh, what money? Look, I showed you my wallet. You know how much I got.
Well, we're going to ask you just once more.
You got it. There's nothing else to say.
All right, Frank.
Yeah, let's book him in. According to Rogers, his partner's willing to talk. I'll get the story from him.
All right, McKinley, let's go.
What do you mean, go where?
Main jail. We're booking you in.
Come on, let's go.
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah. Come on.
What did he say anyway, this guy you say they picked up?
Oh, your partner? Well, we told you what he said. Why? What's the matter?
Nothing. I just said.
Better order up a stenographer, huh, Joe? Have her ready to take the statement when they bring the guy in.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Sergeant?
Yeah.
Let's go back, I'll tell you.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On September 19th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 91, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, just a parting word about Fatima. I know a lot of you have promised yourself that you'd give Fatima's a try, but, well, you just haven't gotten around to it yet. So I'd appreciate it if you'd kind of keep us in mind the next time you buy cigarettes and ask your dealer for Fatimas. You'll find Fatima gives you more for your money. Compare them with any other king-size cigarette, and you'll find Fatima does have a better flavor and aroma. You'll like its extra mild and soothing smoke. Tomorrow, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Ralph Arthur McKinley and his accomplice, John Warren Hatfield, were tried and convicted on 6 counts of second-degree burglary. They received sentences as prescribed by law. Second-degree burglary is punishable by imprisonment in the county jail for not more than 1 year, or by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for not less than 1 nor more than 15 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, to protect our nation and the free world against communist aggression, we must produce vast quantities of guns, planes, tanks, and explosives. Defense of our country against aggression abroad and inflation at home depends on our ability to fill both our military and civilian requirements. Remember, the better we produce, the stronger we grow.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Harry Bartell, Stacey Harris, Jack Crucian. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gipney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
There's more adventurous entertainment with Night Beat next on NBC.
The story you're about to hear is true. The
Cigarettes. Best of all king-size cigarettes brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to vice detail. A professional gambling ring has set up operations in your city. Dozens of citizens are being victimized. The gamblers keep on the move, changing their locations day to day. Your job? Get them. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, February 9th. It was foggy in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of vice detail. My partner's Bill Lockwood. The boss is Lieutenant Bingham. My name's Friday. It was 4:20 p.m. when I got to the second floor of the old Central Jail building. Vice detail.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Bill. You show up yet?
Yeah, waiting in the next room.
Oh, fine. You talked to him yet?
No, he just came in a couple of minutes ago. Figured I'd wait for you.
Well, how's he seem? Sober? Looks like he's off the left?
Yeah, he looks pretty good. Shaved, cleaned up a little.
Fine. Dave, how are you?
Oh, hiya, Friday. Thought I'd drop by and see you. Remember you were talking to me last week about that thing.
You hear anything, Dave?
Yeah, I think I might have something for you. I think it's what you're looking for. Tried to get you on the phone last night. You weren't in.
Well, you should have left a message.
Oh, I didn't want to do that. You know how it is. Guess I shouldn't even be coming up here like this.
You got some kind of a permanent address, Dave? Phone number? Someplace we can contact you?
No, I'm still floating around a little.
Mm-hmm. Now, about this thing we were talking about, what'd you hear?
I picked up a little chatter. I think it's what you want. Say, you fellas had your coffee. I haven't had mine. What do you say?
Okay, how about the place down the corner?
Fine with me.
All right, if you want to check us out, Bill, tell him we'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you. All right, Dave, we walk this way.
Okay. You're looking pretty good, Friday. World treating you okay?
Well, I can't complain, I guess. Go ahead.
Thank you. Guess we better wait for your partner, huh? What's his name?
Lockwood.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Skipper's got something for us when we get back, Joe.
All right.
You're looking pretty good yourself, Lockwood. Yeah, real good.
You seem to be in pretty fair shape. That pocket's full of change sounds healthy.
That's not too good. Still got a few dimes to rattle. Hasn't been coming too fast lately, though.
Mm-hmm. You still setting pins down there at that bowling alley?
Yeah, uh-huh. A lot of help hanging around, though. We really got to hustle for it.
That's so.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the alley's changing over to those automatic machines, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few guys out. A lot of the machines can set pins better than a man can.
Hi, Matthews. How are you?
Hi, Joe. Hi, Bill. What do you say, Jack?
Yeah. Who's that guy?
He works out of the office. Why?
Nothing. I thought I'd seen him around. Yeah.
No, down this way, Dave. Just a couple of doors.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, did you hear anything about Tony? You know if he's in town?
No, I've been working on it. It's Dirty Tony. He's not going to show.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, why don't you two grab the back table? I'll order up.
All right, fine, Bill.
Black with sugar, huh?
All right. Cream and sugar for you, Joe?
Yeah, that's fine. Bring a couple of those jelly donuts, would you?
Okay.
All right. Well, what's the story, Dave? What do you hear?
Well, I heard about it last night, right after I left the alley. You told me to keep my ears open, you know.
Yeah.
Said you figured there might be something on that new bunch hanging around the bar down from the alley. You figured they might tie in with a new bunch of high rollers in town.
Yeah. What'd you pick up?
I think you figured right, from what I heard anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. Have a donut, Dave?
Oh, yeah, thanks. You make a fine waiter, Lockwood.
Thanks. We don't get a lead pretty soon. I may have to take it up.
Dave was just telling me that he figures he might have something for us. He picked it up at the spot down from the alleys last night.
Well, like I said, after I was through at the alleys, I stopped by the place and had a couple of beers. Can't afford anything else. A few nickels they pay me. Lucky to get enough to eat the way things are going.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, I know. Well, what's the pitch you got, Dave?
Well, I was sitting there having a beer, and a couple of those new faces were sitting next to me. So I put my ear out, tried to pick up some of the talk.
Yeah.
I couldn't get all of it, but I did get enough to make out there was going to be a big game tonight. From what I could get, there's going to be a lot of scraps floating around.
You sure what's going to be there?
I had to play it careful, Couldn't be too nosy.
Okay.
Well, I sat and had another beer, and one of the new monks heard the other guy call him Mike, I think. He asked the bartender for change to make a phone call. He got the change, went over the wall phone. I got up and drifted over that way. And made out like I was watching the shuffleboard. I caught some of his talk.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, he was talking about some big game tonight. I heard him say to the guy on the other end not to show up before 11:30.
Did you get an address?
Yeah, Said it'd be back of an empty store building down on Gibbons Avenue.
You get a number?
9122.
What was that again? 9122, is that right?
Yeah.
Gibbons, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. As soon as I get out of the place, I wrote it down. Wait a minute. I got it. Let's see. Yeah, 9122 Gibbons. That's it.
Now, this fellow that made the phone call, you say his name was Mike, is that right?
Yeah, that's what I heard his partner call him. He's kind of a short guy, like 35, 36 on the fat side, black hair.
Mike Filmer.
You know him?
Yeah, we've had an eye on him. Thought he might figure in.
Not about the size of it, Dave? That all you heard?
Yeah, that's about it, Friday. As soon as he finished the phone call and his partner left, I finished my beer and left, too. I had to. Couldn't afford another one. Real tough these days.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Well, don't mention it. You've always done all right by me. Donut sure tasted great. Still hungry. The way I feel I could take on a 3-inch steak.
I'm sorry things aren't better for you, Dave. How about a 10 spot? Will that help you any?
It sure will, Friday. Thanks a lot, huh? You really can use it.
Well, I'm glad to help you. You're always helping us.
You sure make it nice. I mean, you make it nice and easy on a guy.
How do you mean?
Well, it's always there first. I never have to come right out and ask.
Okay.
Good, though. You always get the pitch, don't you?
Almost a month before, we had begun receiving complaints about a newly established gambling ring which had set up operations in the city. After the first few complaints, we succeeded in identifying some of the men involved in the ring and also some of the places they frequented. The nature of most of the complaints against them was such that we knew we were dealing with a well-organized criminal element. Even if a player happened to win at one of the games, after he left the location, he was beaten and robbed. Despite the fact that we had some of the suspects identified, we still lacked sufficient evidence to prosecute them successfully. The various victims either would not or could not identify the suspect. We knew the gang was running 3 or 4 games a week, each one of them at a different location, each one of them at a different time. In the trade, that's known as the floating game. After we left our informant, Dave Carter, we headed back to the office and briefed Lieutenant Bingham. That afternoon, we checked the address on Gibbons Avenue and found it to be a vacant store building with a for rent sign in the window. There was an entrance in front and one in the rear, windows along both sides of the building, and a plasterboard partition dividing the inside of the store into 2 parts. The place was deserted. At 10 o'clock that night, Bill Lockwood and I staked out in our car down the street from the store. Sergeant Fred Taylor and Jack Matthews were staked out in their car from another point of observation. We were in constant touch with each other by 3-way radio. 10:30, 11 p.m., 11:30.
1K87 to 1K80, come in.
1K80 to 1K87, go ahead.
Joe, did you notice the lights come on in the back of the store a minute ago?
Yeah, 2 men. They went in the back way, parked their car just down the street from us here. You see anything else?
Car just pulled up down the street from us. 2 men getting out, heading for the store. Joe, just a minute. Yeah, they're going that way. They're going around the back, Joe. Looks like it's going to pay off. Let's sit on it a while. KMA 367.
We waited. 11:45. A blue pickup truck pulled up and stopped a short way from the front entrance to the store. We saw 2 men get out and go around to the back of the truck and unload half a dozen large boxes, which they carried around to the rear entrance of the place. One of the men came back, got in the cab of the truck, and sat there. Midnight, 12:15 a.m. Over a period of half an hour, we watched 18 persons arrive from different directions and enter the store from the rear. 12:30, 1 a.m. There were no new arrivals. We waited.
1K87 to 1K80, come in.
1K80 to 1K87, go ahead.
Not much activity down here, Joe. Looks like it's pretty well set. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we might as well hit it. Same way we laid it out, huh, Fred? We'll wait until Matthews picks up the lookout, the man sitting in the truck.
Right, Joe. Jack, you want to go ahead and grab and go away. He's on his way, Joe.
Okay, as soon as he picks him up, we meet in front of the place. Bill and I'll take the front. You cover the back. You got that?
Okay, Joe. Oh, hold on a minute, will you? Yeah, Jack got him. Bring him back to the car.
Okay, let's go. KMA 367. You got the car keys, Joe?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
You figure that's the best way, Joe, too, is going in the front?
Well, that's probably where the rush is going to be. When Fred goes through the back, they're sure to start for the front.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah.
Jack's got the lookout in our car. He'll wait for us.
Right. Now, what do you think about this, Fred? You go around and hit the back door. As soon as I hear you inside, they'll probably start for the front. We'll take care of them there.
That's a good idea. Give me half a minute to get back there. Huh?
Right. Watch yourself.
All right, Joe?
Let's go.
We're still going, not wise to it.
Yeah, let's hold it right there.
Police officer, you're under arrest now. Hold it right there.
Come on, Bill. Let's hit it.
Back, Joe.
Yeah, come on.
All right, get back there, Walter. Get back. Police officer.
Come on, back against the wall.
Going out the window, Joe. Fred. I think get back against the wall, all of you.
All right, I'll cover him. You get back and see what happens to Fred.
Right.
All right, mister. With the rest of them there. Back against the wall.
All right, I'm going. What's the beef about anyway? Just
All right, all of
game?
you. Turn around. Face the wall. Put your hands against the wall.
What's the pitch anyway? Treating us like a bunch of thieves. You're just having a little fun. No harm done.
Joe. Yeah, did you find Fred? What happened?
He's been shot, hurt bad. Matthews is in with him now. I'll call the ambulance. Get some help.
All right, you two. In with the others. Back against the wall.
What's the beef? Sure, a big noise about nothing. We're here to play little cards, friendly game, just $1 limit. Nobody ever gets hurt. We're all friends.
Is that why you carry guns? 1:20 a.m. The ambulance arrived, and Sergeant Fred Taylor was taken immediately to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital in a critical condition. He'd been shot twice through the upper portion of the chest. He'd been unconscious from the time of the shooting. Who the assailant was, we had no idea. The crime lab arrived at the scene and began their preliminary investigation. Meantime, homicide officers had arrived, and all units in the area were assisting in the investigation, making a house-to-house canvass and checking all backyards, alleys, and unoccupied buildings for possible suspects in hiding. Out of the total number of men present in the store at the time of the shooting, Bill and I had been able to detain 9 of them. The remainder had either scrambled out side windows or the rear door and then apparently made their way over back fences. The 9 we did get were taken downtown for interrogation. All of them had been searched, but no weapons had been found. Bill Lockwood and I remained at the scene assisting the homicide officers. 2:05 a.m. An additional 4 men who'd been present at the gambling game that night were picked up in the area, transported downtown, and held along with the other 9 at homicide detail. 2:20 a.m. Bill and I were called downtown to assist in the questioning. We got nowhere with the first 3 suspects. It was the same with the 4th.
You expect us to believe that, Mike?
Well, it's the truth. I don't know anything about it.
Now, look, Mike, let's put it on the table, huh? We listened to your line of chatter down at the store when we made the pinch. We heard it all. Now, let's get on to facts.
I told you everything I know, no different than the other guys you picked up. I heard there was going to be a game tonight, so I came down.
Who'd you come down with? How'd you get there?
I drove, came by myself.
Where'd you park your car?
About 2 blocks away, a little alley there. By a gas station.
You're a liar, mister, and you know it.
Well, it's the truth, so help me. If I knew there was going to be trouble, I wouldn't even have showed up. I'd play a few cards, sure. I don't go in for heavy stuff, though. I haven't got anything to do with the game.
You're a liar.
You can't say that. Now, you show me where I've lied to you. Tell me.
We were staked out on that place tonight, Mike. It was a little past 11:45. You drove up in a blue pickup truck. Another man was with you. You were driving.
Oh, no, you got it wrong.
No, we haven't got it wrong. You parked that truck about 10 yards down the street from the front of the store. You got out first. The other man followed you. You unloaded 6 large cartons from the truck. Some of the equipment we found in the store. You took it around back and into the rear door, didn't you?
You got it wrong. It wasn't me. It couldn't have been me.
Come off it, Mike. The man you were with, we've got him down the hall. The other officers have talked to him. They gave him the straight story.
But I didn't come with any other guy. Now, will you listen to me? I knew some of them there. I'll admit that. I came by myself.
Now, you listen to me, mister. You get this through your head. Get it once and for all. This isn't a gambling beef anymore. Somebody's been shot. He's been hurt bad.
Well, that's not my fault. I didn't shoot him. I don't know anything about it.
You know more than you're telling. You lied about coming there in that truck. We saw you. Something else. The truck's been checked out. It's registered in your name. Now, you come up with an answer for that one fast.
Well, I don't get it. Maybe my truck is down there. If it is, I don't know how it got there.
You're in a jam, Mike. This isn't any misdemeanor rap. I think the sooner you realize that, the better it's going to be
Look,
for you.
You don't have to tell me it's serious. I know that. Now, what do you want from me anyway?
You know what we want. You know the answers, and we want them. You're part of that gambling setup. We know that. We know who was there tonight. Everybody. We want the names of every one of them. Now, either you got the answer to that shooting or somebody in that crowd had. We're going to get the answer, Mike. Don't make any mistake about it. We're going to get it.
Now, what do I have to say to convince you you're talking to the wrong guy?
Not according to the man they got down the hall, the one in the pickup truck with you. He gave us the whole story. You hired him to help you tonight. You were going to pay him $20. He helped you haul the equipment to the store, and he was supposed to be the lookout at the front door. It ties in all the way. How about it?
All right. Now, you've been calling people liars, huh? Well, he's the liar. The whole lousy story is nothing but a lie.
All right, keep quiet. Friday talking. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, all right. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Now, you listen, Mike. Here's a piece of advice. You make up your mind.
Now, how do you mean make up my mind? I'm trying to cooperate. You don't believe me. I'm trying to help you out every way I can. I'm only too glad to give you a hand. I know you got a tough job. You got my
Now, don't you worry about us, mister. From here in, start worrying about yourself. You're going to do a lot of it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That policeman, he just died.
listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
To show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Prove Fatima quality yourself. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Ask your dealer for Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Tuesday, February 10th, 5:30 a.m. Sergeant Fred Taylor had died at approximately 5:22 a.m. Cause of death was listed as hemorrhage and shock due to the 2 gunshot wounds in the chest. Officers from the medical detail had rushed Taylor's wife from his home to the receiving hospital. She was with him at the time of his death. Unfortunately, he never regained consciousness. 5:45 a.m. While the investigation went on at the scene of the murder, Bill Lockwood and I continued our interrogation of the suspect, Mike Filmer. Another hour of questioning, and he still refused to tell us anything. We finally confronted him with the man we'd seen him arrive with at the location of the gambling game earlier that morning. Another 10 minutes of questioning, and he finally broke down.
Why didn't you tell us that to begin with? Well, believe me, I wanted to. I was scared. I was scared to death. I never had anything like this happen to me before. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say.
All right, this is a complete list of everybody you saw there last night. Everybody who was in that game?
Well, yeah, I think it covers it. Now, let me see it.
All right, here you are.
Yeah, just about everybody.
These are the only addresses you got, just these 3 here.
Yeah, that's it. No, I'm not lying now, believe me. Those are the only ones I know of.
All right, so you had a hand in the game. You brought in the equipment, you were working for the house.
Yeah, that's right.
Then who's the boss, Mike? Who's running the game?
What about it? Who's running it? Look, I've told you everybody that was there, everybody. He wasn't there that night. He couldn't have had anything to do with it.
Mike, we didn't ask you that. We asked you who the boss is. What's his name? Now, how about it? We want his name.
But I told you he wasn't there last night. If he wasn't there, he couldn't have had anything to do with it. Look, he's a nice guy. He doesn't want trouble any more than I do. He couldn't tell you.
You let us figure that out, will you? Now, who's the boss, Mike?
Does it have to be? Is that important?
We wouldn't be asking you. Who is he?
George Delano. Now, that's all I know about him, his name.
How does he spell his last name? What's he look like?
Well, I guess it's Delano. I never saw him write it down, though. I've only known him about a month, maybe 5 weeks.
What's his description?
Well, he's taller than I am, about 5 feet 10, 11 maybe. Dark hair. A little bit on the heavy side. Like me, I guess. Man about 45, 50.
Where does he live? Where do we find him?
I don't know where he lives. Some hotel downtown, I think. The only times I ever met him was at a bar.
Which bar? Whereabouts?
South end of town. Down in Vermont. I don't know the address, but I can point it out to you. It's a couple of doors down from Big Bowling Alley.
Right across from a theater, woman's dress shop next door?
Yeah, that's right. That's the place. The only place I've ever seen him. He always calls me at home and tells me where to meet him.
You mean to say you've been working for this Delano and you don't even know where he lives?
Well, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm squaring with you. I really don't know. Friday, talk to you, man?
Yeah, sir. I'll be right back now. What do you got, Sam?
Charlie Hart and I just got back from the place down on Gibbons Avenue, the store.
Yeah.
Thought you'd like to know. We found a gun in the back of the place hidden under a lumber pile.
All right. You check it out?
Yeah, I ran through gun records. It's registered.
What's the name?
George Delano.
7:38 a.m. With the new lead on the alleged boss of the gambling ring, George Delano, we interrupted our questioning of the suspect, Mike Filmer. We took him down the hall back to the homicide squad room to be held for further interrogation. We checked Delano through R&I, but we had no record on him. Then, along with Sergeant Sam Flowers and Charlie Hart of Homicide, we drove out to the address of George Delano as listed in the gun registration files. It was a small cottage in the Wilshire area. The woman who answered the door identified herself as Mrs. George Delano, the suspect's wife. She called her husband to the door. We identified ourselves, briefed him on the reason for our visit, and told him we wanted to talk to him downtown. He appeared cooperative, more than willing to come along. He got dressed. We drove him back to the city hall and took him to the interrogation room. He was well-dressed and, in his own way, well-mannered. After being told of the situation, he admitted freely that he'd been operating games at different locations throughout the city for the past month and a half. He told us that he'd employed Mike Filmer to assist him in his operations, and he also admitted ownership of the gun found near the murder scene. The gun had since been checked by Russ Camp and ballistics and found to be the murder weapon.
Well, yes, it's my gun, but I'd like to explain a little bit about it.
What's that, Delano?
Well, number one, I admit I'm a gambler. That's my racket. I'm new to Los Angeles. I even admit I've been working a few games, but I'm no murderer. I wouldn't have any part of it.
You said you were going to explain about the gun. Now, what about it?
Now, look, I'd like to fill you in on everything, officers. I got nothing to hide from you. I'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
When I first came to this town, as I say, it's been about 5-6 weeks, I made a few connections, and I started running these games. For the first couple of weeks, everything went fine. No beefs, everything was fine. All I had to do was dodge you fellas, and then the trouble started in.
How do you mean?
You mind if I have a smoke? I'm a little upset.
All right, go ahead.
You care for one?
No, thanks.
Yeah. I want to fill you in from the start. I want to clear this whole thing up.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah. Well, as I told you, first few weeks, everything was fine. Then one night when the game was just about ready to break, a couple of punks came in, held us up. They cleaned everybody in the place, made a big haul.
When was this? Where did it happen?
Down on the east side. Punks took us for everything. You know how it is. Couldn't make a report to you. I just had to take it, cover the losses myself.
Yeah, now how about that gun?
I'm coming to it. This thing happens, and I figure that's the end of it. But no, a couple of nights later, they hit again. I still can't squat. I have to stand the losses. Another couple of nights, they knock us over again. Couldn't do a thing about it. Losing money.
All right, we've heard all that. That's your racket. You can expect it. All we want to know is about that gun. Now, what's your story?
I told you I was coming to it. After the third time they reached us, I hired a guard. Somebody stand watch outside in case of another stick-up. It's the only thing I could do.
Yeah?
Well, so I hired some guy to stand guard on the game. Loaned him my gun in case there was any trouble.
And you told him to use it in case there was trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
How about a raid from the police? You tell him to use it for that?
No. Matter of fact, I made a point of telling him about that. All he was supposed to use the gun for was just to fire it up in the air, maybe scare those punks off and warn the guys inside at the same time.
We'll talk about that later, Delano. We want to know who had the gun last night.
Well, the guard did. I told you I loaned him the gun.
Who's the guard? What's his name? Where do we find him?
His name's Jake. A friend of mine got him for me. See, Jake Gleason. That's it, Gleason.
Where's he live?
Couldn't tell you that. I don't know. I always contacted him at a bar in South Vermont, place I go quite a bit. Be a little too early to catch him there now.
What do you know about this Gleason? What's he look like?
I don't know. I haven't seen him much. I guess you'd say he's about 32, 33. Kind of light brown hair, tall. Ex-con, I think. Either he told me or somebody told me he did time.
You knew he was an ex-con and you gave him your gun.
Well, yeah, but I didn't tell him to shoot anybody. I made a point of telling him that. The dumb jerk, especially shooting a cop. All he was supposed to do was fire up in the air if those punks came around, scare him away. To help me, that's the only time he was supposed to use the gun. I told him that.
Not much of a story, Delano. Can you prove it?
Sure, I can prove it. You can ask Mike Filmer. He'll tell you the same thing. You can ask Gleason himself. The dumb jerk. Mike said he wasn't too sharp, a little punchy, wasn't quite right in the head.
What's that?
I said he was a little punchy, wasn't quite right in the head, Gleason.
You mean you met him in a bar? You didn't know anything about his background. You knew he was an ex-con. You had an idea he wasn't too sharp. Maybe he wasn't all there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's about it.
And you put this man in the spot where you knew he'd be in trouble, and then you gave him a gun. Is that right? How about it, Delano?
What are you looking at me for? I told the dumb jerk what to do. I didn't tell him to shoot anybody. Punch drunk boozer.
Yeah.
Truth. I didn't have a thing to do with it. I hired the guy, that's all. It's not my fault. What are you looking at? I wasn't even there. I didn't even know about it. I didn't kill that cop.
Didn't you? 9:23 a.m. We continued questioning George Delano. He told us that he'd instructed Jake Gleason, the ex-convict, to stand guard at the rear of the store where the gambling games were held. He insisted that his instructions to Gleason were that if he had to fire the gun at all, he was to fire it in the air, and then only as a warning signal in case of robbery attempt. Delano was detained by homicide officers pending further investigation. We checked the name and description of Jake Gleason through R&I and found his record and mugshot. We showed the mug to Delano, and he identified it. Gleason's record showed him to be on active parole. 10:30 a.m., we contacted the parole office. They gave us his address, and Bill and I checked it out, a second-rate hotel on South Flower Street. The manager told us Gleason had left the hotel about 7:45 that morning and that he was not expected back until after 6 o'clock that night. He also told us there was a chance we might locate him in one of the bars around the neighborhood. 10:45. We started making the rounds of the bars in the immediate vicinity. The third place we stopped at was practically deserted. The jukebox at the back of the place was turned up to full volume. There was a smell of disinfectant, whiskey, and stale perfume. There was one customer drinking at the far end of the bar. It was Gleason.
Stand up, Gleason. Police officer.
All right. Take him down, Bill.
Clean, Joe.
All right. Hands in back of you.
Yeah.
You want to kill that jukebox, Bill?
Yeah.
All right, you know why we want you.
Yeah, I know. Knew there wasn't any sense running. I knew you'd be around.
All right, let's go.
Could you do me a favor? Wait a minute, just a minute.
Yeah?
Just like to tell you I didn't mean it. I guess it's my own fault. I shot him. I shouldn't have had the gun, shouldn't have taken the job. I shot him. I didn't mean it.
All right, come on.
There ought to be a way, don't you think? There really ought to be a way.
What's that?
I didn't mean it. No reason to kill him. I didn't even know him. I just keep thinking there's only a way if I could take it back again, you know?
Yeah, we know.
If I could go back and change it, make it all different. Right from the beginning, I wouldn't even look at a gun. I'd change everything. I bet I would. I wouldn't even look at a gun. If I only had the chance, you know? Second chance. There ought to be a way. Second chance.
You started with a gun, Jay.
Yeah?
You never had a first one.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On May 22nd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, Fatima gives you more for your money because no other king-size cigarette can match Fatima quality. Because Fatima's length filters and cools the smoke for your protection. Gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size. I'm convinced that you'll agree with me once you try them. Get a pack of Fatimas next time you buy cigarettes. Fatima, an extra mild and soothing smoke. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Jacob Allen Gleason was tried and convicted of murder in the first degree and was sentenced to a life term in the state penitentiary. George Delano, Mike Filmer, and all other principals were found guilty of violating the municipal code 43.01, gambling, and received sentences as prescribed by law. George Delano and Mike Filmer were sentenced to 6-month terms in the county jail. Others received proportionate sentences.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Fox, Director on the Executive Board of the Mystery Writers of America.
Tonight it is with a great deal of pleasure that I, speaking for the entire membership of the Mystery Writers of America in all fields, present the Edgar Allan Poe Award for the second consecutive year for the finest radio presentation in its class, Dragnet. To you, Jack Webb, and your fine group of technicians responsible for the overall production of Dragnet, we present this statuette of one of the immortals in the field of mystery, Edgar Allan Poe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fox, and thanks also to the membership of the Mystery Writers of America.
And standing by to receive his award, also for the second consecutive year, as the outstanding radio writer in his field, and for the consistent job he does on Dragnet, Jim Moser. Here is your statuette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fox.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's seldom indeed when the writer of any radio show receives his just and due acclaim. It's with the greatest of pleasure that we accept the Edgar Allan Poe Awards, as it is primarily a writer's award. All of us who have had a hand in bringing Dragnet into your homes each week are proud of our writer, Jim Moser. For as anyone in radio will readily go on record by saying and knowing that you're only as good as the script you read. So it's with deep gratitude that we receive the MWA Award, which best illustrates and confirms the high opinion which we all hold of our writer, Jim Moser.
Thank you, Jack, and I'd like to express my special appreciation to our technical advisors from the Los Angeles Police Department, without whom none of this would be possible.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Martin Milner, Eddie Firestone, Whit Connor. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Now, it's Counter Spy on NBC.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to read a telegram we just received. Final ballot tabulation shows Dragnet has won Michael Award for Best Radio and also for Best Television Mystery Program in 1952. 20,090 qualified members participated in nominations and final ballot. Congratulations and best wishes. Ed Bobley, President, Academy of Radio and Television Arts and Sciences. The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a robbery detail. A United States mail truck is held up and robbed. 22 sacks of registered mail are taken. The holdup men escaped. There's no lead to their identity. Your job? Get them.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, August 4th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from communications, and it was 11:05 p.m. when I got to room 27A, the squad room.
That's it. There wasn't anything else to do. One of them had a gun pressed right up against the back of my head. I didn't dare make a move.
All right, bud, take it easy. Joe? Nothing yet. The broadcast and the APB are out on him. How you feeling, Houston?
Not bad. Still a little shaky. How about my partners, Frank and Adolph? Are they hurt bad?
No, a couple of bad bumps in the head. They'll be all right by morning. Doctor's treating them now over at Georgia Street.
Can we talk to them tonight?
Doctor doesn't think it'd be a good idea. We can wait till morning. You look a little pale, Houston. You sure we can't get you something?
No, I'll be all right. Still a little shaky, that's all. It's the worst scare I ever got in my life. Thought I was gone for sure.
How about a glass of water?
Yeah, okay, if you got it.
You bet. You got a penny, Frank?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just talking about the getaway car when you came in, Joe.
Yeah.
But Houston here is pretty sure he was right the first time. It was a dark blue sedan, late model.
Mm-hmm. Any idea at all what make it was, Bud?
I wouldn't like to say definitely. I don't want to mix you up. I got half an idea it was a GM car, maybe a Buick or an Olds. I can't say for sure, though.
Well, here's your water.
Oh.
You didn't get a look at the license, huh? You sure of that, are you?
No, I didn't see it at all. The whole thing went too fast for me. I appreciate this.
I got it. Robbery, Smith. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, Inspector. Uh-huh. Yeah, I see. Yeah, we'll be here for a while. Yeah, 27A. Right, thank you. Goodbye.
You got it.
Post Inspector Joe. He's on his way over now.
That's fine. Hey, Bud, when you started your run with that mail truck tonight, you have any inkling at all that there was something wrong?
I don't think I get you, Sergeant. What do you mean?
Well, did you happen to notice anyone suspicious hanging around the post office out by the loading platform, maybe?
No, buddy.
How about on your way to the Union Station? You notice any cars following your mail truck there?
No, if they were, I think I'd have noticed it. I usually keep an eye out when we're making a run. It's a habit I got into, I guess.
How long you been driving a mail truck, Bud?
About 5 years. I've only been handling the registered mail the last couple of months, though.
Did your truck leave the post office on schedule tonight?
Yeah, right on the dot. We followed the other trucks out. You see, the trucks that pick up the ordinary mail, they leave first, and then our truck leaves right after them. We only handle registered stuff.
I see.
The same routine tonight, no different.
And you were the driver of the truck, that right, Bud?
Yeah, that's all I do is drive. Frank's the clerk, Adolph's the guard. That's regulations. On trucks that handle just the straight mail, the driver's the only one aboard. Registered mail trucks got to have 3 men, the driver, the clerk, and the guard.
I know. You usually drive the same route from the post office to the Union Station, do you?
Yeah, we go the same way every night. Straight down Temple Street, turn right and go down Ferguson to Alameda, then over Alameda to Union Station, make the pickup or the delivery, and then we come back the same way to the post office.
And that's the route you followed tonight, huh?
Yes, sir, that's it. Only we didn't make it back this time.
I'd like to make sure we got this straight now, Bud. Do you mind checking us out on exactly what happened from the time you got to the Union Station?
No, I don't mind.
Well, try to relax if you can. Just take your time. Try to remember everything, will you?
Say, would you mind very much if I called my wife first? I know I'm going to be late getting home. I don't want her to worry.
You bet. Go right ahead, Bud.
What's your number? I'll dial.
Thanks. It's Pleasant 29321.
Okay.
You got a family, Bud?
Yeah, 3 kids.
Mother-in-law, too. She lives with us. Here you are, Bob. Oh, thanks. Lorraine? Oh, hi, Mother. Did I get you out of bed? No, nothing's wrong. I just called to say I'd be a little late tonight. I didn't want Lorraine to worry. No place? No, I'm not in a bar. Why do you have to say things like that? If that's the way you feel all right, just tell Lorraine, will you? Hello? Mother-in-law, I never get off your back. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It's all right, Bud. You want to go ahead now?
Let's see. You wanted to know what happened after we left Union Station?
Yeah, that's right. What time was it when you left the station?
Right after we loaded the mail sacks on the truck, 28 sacks, all registered, and took off.
What time was that?
Scheduled time, 9:56. Left the station, headed for the P.O., drove the same route, along Alameda to Ferguson, then up to Ferguson. As I turned the corner, I picked up their headlights in the rearview mirror. Then they started crowding us. I knew something was wrong. Too late to do anything.
They pulled up alongside, forced you into the curb, then?
Yeah, the darkest part of the street, too. It was a big sedan, I know that, a four-door job. Dark blue, and it was a late model, I'm sure.
You notice anything special about the car, Bud? I mean, maybe a dented fender, some special accessories on it, anything like that?
No, nothing I'd be sure about. I was too busy trying to keep going, get out of their way. I didn't have much of a chance. They forced us up on the sidewalk. I saw a telephone pole coming at me. I had to stop.
What happened then?
I threw a bright spotlight on it. Blinded me for a minute. And these three men got out of the car and came at us, guns in their hands. It all happened in a couple of seconds. I was never so scared in my life.
Did you get a good look at any of the men?
No, I didn't. It was pretty dark. The place they stopped us at. I couldn't be sure I'd recognize any of them if I saw them again.
Well, what'd the men do when they came up to the truck?
Put their guns in our face, made us get out of the truck and climb into their car, the blue sedan. And one of them got in the mail truck behind the wheel. His name was Sid. I heard that. One of the men said, "Follow us in the truck, Sid. You know where to go." That's what he said.
You happen to hear any other names?
No, that was the only one. And Sid seemed to be the boss. He was giving the orders anyway.
They put you and your two partners in the back seat of their car?
Yeah, and the two thieves were in the front seat. One drove and the other held a gun on it. He kept the lower part of his face covered with a handkerchief. You could see the mail truck following a little ways behind us.
Mm-hmm. They drove you straight down Alameda, is that right?
Yes, sir. Like I told you before, I think it was about a mile and a half. And they turned off right into that alley by the warehouse, same place you found me.
Uh-huh.
I figured that was the end. They got us out of the car, Frank and me and Adolph. Made us line up against a brick wall there, hands up in the air, facing the wall, and then they opened up the back of the truck and transferred the mail sacks to their car.
Well, any conversation while all this was going on?
Not too much, no. You see, one of them, I think that was Sid. He covered us with a gun, a shotgun. The other two moved the mail sacks from the truck to the car, and every once in a while the Sid would tell them, "Come on faster, we're short on time." I think that's what he said.
Well, why'd they slug your two partners, this Frank and Adolph? Any reason for that?
It's coming to that. You see, when they got all the mail sacks in their car and they were ready to pull out, the other two guys came over to Sid, and one of them said, "What are we waiting for? Let's kill him and get out of here."
Yeah?
Well, right away, our clerk, Frank, he began pleading with them not to kill us. I guess Frank was thinking of his wife and his little kid.
Mm-hmm. How'd the thieves react?
Well, they slugged him, cracked him with a gun, and hit him a couple of times. Frank went down. He started crying. Just a young kid, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Well, this other guy told Sid again. He said, "Come on, let's kill him. Let's get out of here." He's the one who had something wrong with his voice. It was real husky, you know, like he had a cold.
Go ahead.
Well, I got to say, this Sid wasn't much for killing us. He told the other guy he didn't think they ought to kill us because they'd set him up for a murder rap besides mail robbery. The other two guys told Sid, "What's the difference? If we're going to rob the mails, we might as well go all the way." They argued about it a minute or so.
Yeah.
And my other partner, Adolph, he began to plead with him. He said, "Please don't kill us." I was sick to my stomach. I couldn't even talk.
What'd you say?
I said I was sick to my stomach. I couldn't even talk.
Was that when they slugged Adolph?
Yeah, this Sid slugged him. He hit him worse than he did Frank. He kept beating him and beating him. I still hear it. I just got sick. Well, make a long story short, the Sid finally said, "We'll give him a gambler's chance. We'll toss for it."
Huh?
That's just what he said. He said, "We'll toss for it." And he says, "Hey, you." And he motioned to me. He said, "I'm going to toss a coin. You call it. If you lose, we kill the three of you. If you win, we don't." So help me, it's the truth. I didn't know what to do. I tried to talk them out of it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't listen. The Sid told me either I called it or they'd kill us then. Took a coin out of his pocket and flipped it in the air. I called heads. Guess I don't have to tell you. I won.
Something new for the book.
How'd it go after that, Bud?
Tied up the three of us and drove off in their car. About 15 minutes later, that night watchman found us and called you fellas. And you know the rest.
And you're sure you wouldn't be able to identify any of the hold-up men if you saw them again?
No.
You're real sure?
No, their general build, that's the only thing I'm sure of. This fellow Sid was tall on the thin side, about 45, 50 years old. The other two were fairly short, stocky. Like I told you, that one fellow's voice, deep and husky, I think I'd know him if I heard him talk again.
Excuse me a minute. Robert, Friday. Yeah, Walt. How's it going? Uh-huh. Yeah, not much doubt. All right. Fine. Yeah, fine. The getaway car, they just found it.
Where'd you?
Up in Elysian Park, just off Riverside.
What about the mail sacks? They find them, too?
Yeah, every one of them. Empty. According to the report we've received, the getaway car was found parked in a clump of shrubbery on the edge of Elysian Park, about half a mile from Riverside Drive. All of the 28 registered mail sacks were found scattered in and around the car, and with the exception of a few pieces of mail, the sacks were empty. A crew from the crime lab was dispatched immediately to the scene to check the car and the mail sacks for fingerprints and to cover the entire area for physical evidence. The mail truck was also gone over for prints at the point where it had been located. The officers at the scene, Sergeants Bitteroff and Gonzalez, continued the investigation on their end. 11:50 p.m. After the inspector from the post office department arrived, we continued our interview with Bud Houston, one of the 3 victims of the mail truck robbery. We ended the interview a few minutes after midnight, and Houston was driven to his home. The following morning, along with the postal inspector, Frank Smith and I talked to the other 2 victims, the clerk and the guard who were with Houston at the time of the holdup. They could add nothing to what their partner had already told us. The investigation went on. Every possible angle was checked and rechecked. 3 days passed. Nothing. Thursday, August 7th, 5:40 p.m.
Hi, Joe. How'd you make out?
Oh, it's sour. Nothing at all. The guy wasn't even in town the night of the holdup, and he can prove it. You have any luck?
No better than yours.
I might just as well have taken the day off for all the good we did. Nothing from the stats office, huh?
No. Last one we asked for won't be ready till tomorrow. It's getting a little embarrassing, Joe. We got them checking practically every robbery card they've got. M.O. description, only a few of them come close. We've already ruled them out as possible. The one you just checked on, that was the last.
About does it. Might as well close up shop for the day, huh? You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
I'll sign us out.
All right.
Okay, Joe. That mail truck driver, Houston, he and his partners were in checking through our mug books again this afternoon.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Did they come up with anything?
Well, they spotted one mug shot, parolee from Quentin, only a partial ident. 3 of them couldn't even agree on that. I checked on the man. He's back in Quentin for a month.
I can't say the 3 of them aren't cooperative. They've sure been working for us, haven't they?
Hey, Joe, you in a hurry? How about watching out?
Yeah, all right.
Been a long time since we've had one start as slow as this one.
You'll run into worse, Frank.
I mean right from the start, Joe. We find the getaway car, plenty of prints on it. Can't get a make on any of them. Find out the car was stolen. We checked the owner, location, leads nowhere. Prints on the steering wheel of the mail truck, parts of the mail sack, still no make. How tough can it get?
Well, they might have something when their kickback comes through from Washington. The holdup men weren't amateurs, we know that.
Joe, you checked with Gonzalez and Bitteroff today? I didn't see him.
Yeah, they're not doing much better than the rest of us. They got an informant out on the thing. He's supposed to have some work for him tomorrow and a couple of possibles.
Hey, how about the money taken from the mail they got? List of the serial numbers on the bills going out to everybody?
Yeah, revised list went out late last night. Copy sent all over the country.
Right?
Yeah, Mac, we're here.
Call for him.
Okay, thanks. Be right there. Okay,
let's go.
All right.
Hope this call means something, Joe. Wouldn't mind going late tonight.
What do you mean?
My sister-in-law, Florence, she's having me and the wife over for dinner, some kind of fancy pork dish.
What's the matter with that?
She never cooks anything until it's done. She likes things raw.
Oh, that's all?
Imagine what that roast pork's going to be like. We'll all end up with trichinosis.
Yeah. Go ahead. Mac? Which one, Mac?
One, two, Joe.
Thank you. Friday talking. Yeah. Oh, yeah, John. Mm-hmm. You sure check. Okay, fine. About 20 minutes. 20 minutes, yeah. Right, thank you.
Anything, Joe?
Wilshire detectives. They got a petty theft suspect out there now named Cecil Grant. Picked him up this morning.
What about him?
Well, he had a $20 bill on him stuffed down in the corner of his pocket.
Yeah?
They checked out the serial number. It's on the list. 6:05 p.m. Frank and I got in the car and drove out to Wilshire Station, where we double-checked the serial numbers on the $20 bill taken from the petty theft suspect Cecil Grant. It checked out. The officers at Wilshire Division had already made a run on Grant through R&I, but outside of one other arrest for petty theft, he had no further criminal record. His fingerprints had been checked, but they failed to tie in. The suspect was taken from his cell to the interrogation room, where Bill and I questioned him. He talked a lot, but he didn't say much.
Well, now, look, there ain't any reason to get mad. We can settle this thing without a big rhubarb. No reason to get mad.
28 sacks of U.S. mail, mister. A couple of men slugged till they couldn't stand up. We figure that's a good reason.
All right. I know. Why bring your troubles on me? That wasn't,
You got a piece of the loot, a $20 bill. You had it in your pocket. You admit it's yours.
All right, so what?
The holdup's still fresh. It ties you in close, Cecil. You're warm enough for us.
What do you mean? What are you getting at?
You don't need me to explain it. You got a piece of the loot. You say the bill must have been in your pocket for at least a day.
That's right.
Then it's a good chance you were in contact with the thieves. Either that or you're one of them.
I'm not. You know that. Couldn't have been there. I got an alibi.
Now, face it, Grant. You're not going to alibi that $20 bill. Now, how about it?
I don't know. I told you I don't know.
If it's not your job, you better check us out, Cecil. Robbing the U.S. mail. I think you know what that gets you.
I don't know. Money was in my pocket. I just don't know.
25 years, 30, maybe 35. If you're not in, why fool with it? How about it, Cecil?
I'm not in. You know that.
Then what about the 20? What about it?
Well, this is the way it happened. Guy owed me a 20. Owed it to me for 6 months, maybe more. Tuesday he came around, paid off. Gave me that bill you got.
This last Tuesday?
That's right. Thought it was funny, but he's a nice guy. I didn't want to make trouble.
How do you mean?
Well, when he paid me the 20 back, he said, well, look, here, the bill isn't phony, but don't let it out for a couple of days. Bill's okay, but just sit on it, maybe a week or two. That's just what he told me.
Who was it? Where did we find him?
Well, he's a nice guy, friend. I don't want to make trouble.
It's already made. Now, what about it?
Johnny Carter, 380 Nashville Avenue, apartment 2.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Because of its quality, Fatima is the one king-size cigarette that stands out. Here's the practical way to prove that yourself.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Because of its quality, its extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos, more and more smokers coast to coast are switching to Fatima every day.
Buy Fatima. Your money back plus postage if you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking.
Just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Add to your smoking enjoyment. Smoke king-size Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Get Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
August 7th, Thursday, 6:55 p.m. We called R&I, but they had no make on the name John Carter. My partner, Frank Smith, and I left Wilshire Division and headed out to check on the address given us by the theft suspect, Cecil Grant. The 300 block on Nashville Avenue was in West Hollywood, just below Melrose. Number 380 was an aging two-story apartment house. The architecture was old Spanish, a relic of the mid-20s. The name John Carter appeared on one of the mailboxes, but when we rang, there was no answer. We contacted the apartment manager, and he told us John Carter worked at night at a downtown garage. Along with the manager, we went up to the second floor and checked through the suspect's apartment. We found nothing to indicate that he'd taken part in the mail holdup. After a routine interview with the manager, we got the name and address of the garage where Carter was employed, and we left. 8:23 p.m. We pulled up and parked half a block away from Carter's place of employment, an all-night service garage on South Figueroa. Frank waited in the car, and I headed up the block alone toward the garage. In the event Carter was one of the mail truck holdup men, there was a possibility his two Confederates might be employed at the same place he was. If this was the case, we didn't want to tip him off. Hi.
Yeah. You want something?
Yeah, I do. I need a little help if you got the time.
I don't know. I'm busy right now. What's the matter?
I got my car stalled down the street there. I can't figure out what's wrong. The lousy thing just stopped on me.
All right. Check the gas tank?
Yeah, nothing as simple as that. I got almost a full tank. Well, I hate to bother you. You think you could come down and take a look at it? It's not far, just a half a block down the street.
I'm pretty busy. You can see that. I don't know.
Sure appreciate it if you give it a look. I'm not much of a mechanic myself. Probably something real small. My car's almost new.
I don't know. Just a minute. All right, that's going to have to do. It's 2.5 service charge. I have to leave the garage. I guess you know that.
Okay, that's all right with me. I got to get that car started.
You pay in advance. We've had too many hassles on this before.
Okay. There you go.
Okay. Just down the street, you said?
Yeah, down this way.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to the lousy thing. It just quit on me.
Nice night. What'd you do? Pound on the gas pedal, flood the carburetor?
No, I don't think so. I kept trying the starter when the thing quit on me. There's an automatic choke on the car, though. Maybe that had flooded. I don't know.
A half a block now. Which one's your car?
Straight ahead there, the gray sedan.
Oh, yeah.
This one right here.
Okay, get the hood open.
Well, never mind that, mister. Just get in the car. All right, thanks.
Oh, what's this?
Police officers, his identification. Get in the car.
What's the matter? What is it?
Come on, in the car.
Hey, what's the pitch? What's it all about?
Your name, John Carter, address 380 Nashville Avenue?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Is that your name and address?
All right, it is. What about it?
Get him behind you. Help him, Frank.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
What are you trying to pull? What's this about?
U.S. mail robbery, Carter. I want to talk to you downtown.
I don't know anything about any mail robbery. What are you talking about?
Nothing to worry over. If you're cleared, you'll be back on the job in an hour.
Well, why pick me? I work at garage. It's my bread and butter. Why don't you go ahead and arrest the newsboy down corner? Same thing.
No, there's a big difference.
Yeah, you name it.
A $20 bill. 9:05 p.m. After checking with the garage manager to make sure none of his employees were possible accomplices of Carter's, we drove the suspect back to the city hall, took him to the interrogation room, and started to question him. In the space of an hour and a half, he gave us 3 alibis, supposedly accounting for his whereabouts the night of the mail truck robbery. In the same period of time, we checked out each of the 3 alibis by phone calls. Every one of them was alive. The questioning went on. 11:30, midnight, 12:30 a.m. We sent out for coffee. 1 a.m., 1:30. We stayed on it. 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 a.m. It was like any other interrogation. It's a lot tougher to keep asking the questions than to answer them. We were as tired as the suspect, but he had one big advantage. We had to keep pressing, and we couldn't afford to show our fatigue. All he had to do was to say no and refuse to answer the questions. At a few minutes before 5 a.m., we called a halt to the interrogation, but not before we gained a point. Apparently, by a slip of the tongue, Carter gave us the name of the girl he was keeping company with and also her place of employment. After we booked Carter on suspicion of 211 PC, and after we picked up 2 hours' sleep, we located the girlfriend, a Grace Nelson, at her place of employment, a telegraph office at Alpine and South Flower.
All I know is I met John about 3 months ago. His family's from Cedar Rapids, same as mine. There's nothing wrong with John I know of.
You know any of his friends, Miss Nelson, any of the people he has dealings with?
Not personally, I don't. Heard him talk about some, though. Why, what's the matter?
Do you remember any of the names, Miss Nelson?
Let me see. He's always talking about Sid. I don't know his last name, though. Don't know where you'd find him. And then there's Sammy. Don't remember his last name either. Met Sammy once, but I don't know where he stays.
You notice anything unusual about Mr. Carter the last week or so, ma'am? I mean, anything peculiar, anything out of the ordinary?
Anything peculiar? No, I don't think so. John's been just as nice as ever to me. I like him very much. As a matter of fact, it's been nicer than he's ever been.
How do you mean, miss?
Well, for my birthday, last Wednesday.
Yeah.
And he was so sweet about it. Really sweet. He gave me $400. Gave it to me in cash. Told me to go out and buy what I wanted. Wouldn't you say that's sweet?
Have you any of that money left, Miss Nelson?
Why, yes, of course I have. See, right here in my purse. Yeah, right there. More than half of it.
Carter tell you where he got this money, Miss Nelson?
Gambling game. He said he wanted a card. What's wrong?
Serial numbers, ma'am. This money was taken in a hold-up U.S. mail. We've got a pretty good reason to suspect Carter.
You mean John's a thief? That's how he got the money? I can't believe it.
Wait, it's true, ma'am.
So hard to believe. I hope you don't think I had anything to do with it. Robbing people, mails. Are you sure it's John Carter you want?
Yes, ma'am, we're pretty sure. We understand you were pretty close to him. He said the two of you were going to get married.
I don't know. We did have it set at one time, but no, I don't know. I have people in this town, my whole family. I couldn't let this get out now.
You're willing to admit the $400 you got came from John Carter, the same bills that he gave them to you?
I don't know. I love John. I want to hurt him. I really love him. Tell me the truth. What's going to happen?
Well, he's going to be charged with robbery, ma'am, holding up a U.S. mail truck, taking 28 sacks of registered mail.
John Carter?
That's right, him and 2 others. I'd like to ask you one more question, miss. Do you have any idea what Carter was up to? The robbery, I mean?
Me? Of course not. No idea at all. I love John. I loved him for what I thought he was. Go through anything for him. I love him. Just wouldn't make any sense, though, would it?
Ma'am?
Going to jail for him. Just common sense. You can't love anybody that much.
That afternoon, we had the suspect, John Carter, brought from his cell to the interrogation room where he was confronted with the testimony of both Cecil Grant and Grace Nelson, 2 of the people he'd given some of the stolen money to. Another hour of interrogation and Carter broke. He admitted taking part in the holdup and gave us the name of his partner. He named as the leader and mastermind of the robbery a Sidney Grover at an address in Highland Park. Frank and I checked it out.
Yeah?
Police officers. You Sidney Grover?
Yeah. I'm not feeling so well. Can't you come back later? Not feeling well at all.
It's kind of important, Grover. I'd like to talk to you downtown.
Come back later, huh? A little later on. I got so many troubles right now, please.
I'd like to talk to you about a holdup, Grover. Mail truck. We got the 2 men who worked it for you. They gave us the whole story.
2 men? What do you mean? Can't you see I got trouble? Please don't bother me. Come back later, huh? Bad trouble.
You better get your coat, Grover. Got to talk to you downtown.
Look, don't you understand? My son's left me. My only boy. He packed his bag. He walked out. He left me.
Afraid that's your problem, mister.
He said he didn't want any part of me. He had an argument. He didn't like what I was doing. Big argument. He slapped my face, my own boy, and he walked out. Slapped my face.
All right, you want to get your coat?
Yeah, okay. Mail job, is that it? Got the other 2?
Yeah, we got them.
All right, no argument. I didn't try to run away. I guess you can see that. My boy said it was a crook. We argued. He slapped me, walked out. How come, Sergeant?
I wouldn't know. Let's go, Grover.
It's our story, huh? Old man trying a mail robbery. I'm 55. I don't look it, do I? Kid slapped my face. He said I was a crook. I couldn't hit him back, my only boy. Wish he hadn't called me a crook. But it's our story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sour. Let's go.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On November 29th, trial was held in Superior Court, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, there's one thing I'd like you to remember the next time you buy cigarettes. Fatimas give you more for your money. That's because no other king-size cigarette can match Fatima quality, and because Fatima is 21% longer than standard cigarette size. That added length means that Fatima's extra mild and soothing smoke is cooled and filtered for your protection. Get a pack tomorrow and compare them with the cigarettes you've been smoking. Fatima, best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Sidney Allen Grover, along with his 2 accomplices, John Harold Carter and Samuel Maxwell Johnson, were tried and convicted of robbery in the first degree, 1 count, and assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count. All 3 are serving their terms in the state penitentiary. First-degree robbery is punishable by imprisonment from 5 years to life. Assault with a deadly weapon is punishable by imprisonment for not less than 1, nor more than 10 years. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Herb Ellis, Dick Perrin, Inga Hollis. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibley speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, is brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Now, it's Counter Spy on NBC.
The story you were about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to Wilshire Division, Vice Detail. An informant sends you word about an extortion racket going on in your area. The victim, a bookmaker. The suspect, a police officer. Your job, check it out.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, October 18th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Wilshire Division, Vice Detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Hayes. My name's Friday. We were on the way downtown from the office, and it was 9:35 a.m. when we got to the felony section of the main jail, the interview room.
Sit down, Mr. Lawrence.
Thanks.
Got your message when we checked in this morning. What's it about?
Well, I finally made up my mind. I've had enough of this. Say, neither one of you got a cigarette. I left mine back in the cell.
Yeah, sure. Here you are, Lawrence.
Oh, thanks.
You bet. Here's a match for you. Now, what's the story? What's on your mind?
Well, I've been thinking about it most of the night. I didn't get very much sleep. So you remember yesterday? I mean, when you arrested me?
Yeah.
Well, it's just like I told you then. I'm not trying to kid anybody. I admit it. I've been taking a few bets. It wasn't any big operation, though. You know that. It's just laying off a few bets for my friends, people in the neighborhood.
We know all that, Lawrence. We went through that yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to make sure we got it straight. We aren't any big operators. We just ran the bookmaking as a, sideline.
Mm-hmm.
Business hasn't been too good lately. Had to make it up somehow.
I'm sorry, Lawrence. We can't feel bad about it. You were attacked for making book before. You should have learned your lesson.
Oh, I know. I'm not singing the blues. I'm not trying to alibi. I didn't call you down here for that.
Well, then, what's this all about?
Well, like I told you, I've been thinking about it a lot. I didn't sleep hard at all last night. I finally made up my mind, though. I'm going to get it off my chest if it kills me.
All right, what's that?
I'm no stoolie. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but there's one thing I believe in, and that's playing it square, no matter what you do. Just like now, Sergeant, I ain't beating about the arrest. You know that.
Well, what are you getting at? What do you want to tell us?
Oh, all right. Here it is. You know what the record is. I stood a pinch for bookmaking a year and a half ago. I got the thing all squared away, and it came back to my business. I learned my lesson. I didn't want any more trouble, so I laid off the books.
All right, fill us in. What about this policeman?
I'm getting to it. Just a minute. Hey, I'm sorry. You got another cigarette, please. I'm a little jumpy this morning.
Yeah, Lawrence, here you are.
Thanks. Oh, thanks a lot. Well, like I was saying, when I cleared up the last beef, I forgot all about the horses. I was off them for good. The wife made me promise. I wouldn't have anything more to do with them. We'd just run the business, live on what they made, and we'd get along fine.
All right, go ahead.
Everything was going fine, too. Business wasn't too good, but we made out. Then the trouble started.
Yeah.
My oldest boy, that's Harry Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He had an accident on the job, and he broke his hip. I had to help his family out while he was in the hospital. Like I say, the business wasn't making too much money, but we made out, though.
No.
Then,
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, then just as soon as Harry got well, the wife came down. Gallbladder. She had to have an operation. Really cost money,
Yeah.
Well, wife was resting at home. She didn't come down to the store. I started with the books again, just taking a few bets on the side, just a few.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to do it. Just one of those things, I didn't have anybody to go to. The bills had to be paid.
Where does this policeman fit in with this Ray Williams?
Well, I'm just coming to it.
No.
Well, he came in the store. He said he wanted to make a bet. I didn't know him from Adam, so I played careful, I told him I wasn't making books, and then he said he was a good friend of Myra's. Myra, that's a gal who runs a beauty parlor on Crenshaw. She used to make books, but she isn't now.
Yeah, we know the spot.
Well, when he said that he knew Myra, I figured it was all right, so I took the bet. That's when it started. As soon as he makes the bet, he comes out and says he's a cop working for Vice. I thought he was just kidding, and he flashes this identification.
What kind of identification?
Bag.
What kind of a bag?
Well, I don't know. Just a bag. Looked all right.
All right, have a look. This one here, was it like this one?
I don't know. I didn't get too good a look at it. It might have been something like that. I don't know.
You ask for any other identification? You volunteer to show you any?
No, I didn't ask for any. I was scared.
I just figured I was arrested again, that's all. He seemed to know all about the first pinch. I stood for making book. He told me that I'd been operating for about a month and a half. He said he had his eye on me.
Mm-hmm. What did he do after he told you he was a policeman?
Well, I started to explain to him how the thing shaped up when I was making books again, how I had to pay up those doctor's bills. I tried to beg off. I told him that I'd quit right now. Then he turns around and tells me I don't have to.
What do you mean?
Well, that's just what he said. He didn't make sense to me either. And he went on, he told me I was operating in his destiny. He said it'd be okay if I went right along the way I was. He'd see to it that I didn't stand any pinches.
Yes, sir. What else did he say?
Well, he said he wasn't the only one who'd have to be taken care of. He said that was his partner. Then a couple of guys over him, they'd have to be taken care of, too. He said the juice would cost me $100 a week. I tried to explain to him that. Well, I told him that I wasn't operating big. I was just on the side. I said I wasn't making that much a week. All I was doing is about 50. That's all, just 50. Then he said, "Well," he says, "all right, if that's the way you feel about it, I'll just take you down, book you now."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I told him I didn't want to stand the pinch again, and I'd do the best that I could. So he finally said, "I'll give you 2 weeks to go ahead and open this thing up." He said I'd have to do more business because the juice was just going to cost me $100 a week. He didn't care how I got it.
This policeman told you to go ahead and open up, huh? For $100 a week, you could go ahead and make book and nobody bothered.
Yeah.
Did your wife ever see this policeman, this fellow Williams?
Yes, she saw him. She saw him a couple of times. She saw me give him the money. Mm-hmm.
Well, when did all this start?
About the 1st of July. Paid him $100 every week since then. Yeah, I'm almost glad you fellas picked me up, I understand. He was running in the ground. He had me in a bind.
You say the man's name was Ray Williams, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
You said he had a partner. Did you ever see him?
No, I never did.
Did Williams ever come in with anybody? Did you ever see him with anybody?
Well, no. No matter of fact, I never did. One time I asked him who his partner was. He says, none of my business.
What kind of a car does he drive?
I don't know. Never came to my place in a car. He always walked. He came on foot.
Do you know anything else about him? Where does he live?
I don't know. He never told me. He never told me anything, you see? Nothing. Once I asked him what station he was working out of, who his boss was. He got a little hard with me. He told me not to get nosy, not to ask so many questions.
Is there anything else you can tell us about Williams? Maybe where he hangs out, people he knows? Anything you figure will help us?
Well, he works out Wilshire. You ought to know him.
Ray Williams.
Yeah, Ray Williams. The policeman.
Not in my book. Frank and I continued questioning the prisoner, Harold Lawrence, and he gave us a complete description of the extortionist, the man he knew as Officer Ray Williams. Frank got on the phone, notified the commander of Internal Affairs Division of the latest development, and he advised us to bring the prisoner to his office immediately. We signed Lawrence out of the main jail for investigation and took him to the City Hall, room 37. With the help of Sergeants Lloyd Reiner and Floyd Phillips, we started checking through the personnel files for the suspect. Neither Frank nor myself recognized the name or the description of Williams as given us by Lawrence. The first step was to show the prisoner photographs of every police officer in the department, regardless of rank or detail. He was unable to make an identification. We then showed him photographs of all police officers, retired or otherwise. He failed to identify any of them as Williams. We showed him photographs of all civilian employees of the department. Again, no identification. He was unable to find anyone who even closely resembled the extortionist. Not satisfied with this, the prisoner was shown photographs of all law enforcement agencies' personnel in the area. The same results. No identification. 4:18 p.m. While Reiner and Phillips continued checking on their end, we returned the prisoner to the main jail, and then Frank and I drove out to see his wife, Mrs. Mildred Lawrence. We located her at Lawrence's place of business, a small pet shop just off Wilshire Boulevard.
What is it this time? Haven't we got enough trouble? What do you want now?
We just got through talking to your husband, ma'am. A few things we'd like to clear up. I'd like to talk to you a few minutes if we could.
You talked to Harry? How is he?
He's all right, ma'am. We've been with him all day. We're still looking into the case.
Why can't you let him alone? He admitted what he was doing. He wasn't lying. He told you everything.
Yes, ma'am. We appreciate that.
And why don't you let him alone? Let me alone. Trouble. That's all we've had. Sickness and trouble. No end of it.
Well, we realize that, Miss Lawrence. We don't like to bother you, but there's something we have to straighten out here.
I haven't anything to tell you. I'm busy. Left alone here to run the store. No help. I'm sick. Shouldn't even be down here. Let us alone. Let me alone. Harry was wrong. He'll pay for it. We're not asking you for anything.
We're asking you for something, ma'am. We'd like you to help us.
Help you? Why? Policeman all our lives. As far as I'm concerned, you're nothing but trouble. Reason for all our trouble.
Well, that's what we'd like to talk to you about, ma'am.
I haven't anything to say, I told you. I'm a sick woman. Got a lot of work to do. Do you mind stepping aside there? Got this whole bin of dog food to package up. Can't just stand around and talk. Poor little pups have to be fed. Haven't even cleaned a litter yet.
We appreciate how you feel, Ms. Lawrence. We won't take up too much of your time. Can't you give us just a few minutes,
Now,
please?
you listen to me. I've tried to be nice to you. I've got no reason to either. I could tell you a lot of things about policemen, things you wouldn't want to listen to. You think you're so smart. Maybe Harry was doing wrong, but he's not the only one. I could tell you plenty if I wanted.
Well, that's what we're here for, ma'am. We told you we were with your husband all day.
Then why don't you let me alone? Talked to one cop already today. I told him to stay away, and you do the same. I told him just what I thought of him. Low-down thief.
Who was this policeman you talked to today?
You know who he is. He was the same place with you. You big, honest policeman. You never do anything wrong. That Ray Williams ought to be in jail just like Harry is.
Ray Williams. Is that the man who was here today?
That's what I said, wasn't it? Now, will you get out of here?
Now, look, Ms. Lawrence, just a minute, please. We talked to your husband, and he told us all about this man, Williams.
And why don't you do something about it? Go get him and put him in jail, just like you did Harry.
That's what we're trying to do, if you'll just help us. Williams isn't a policeman.
What do you mean?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we've been trying to tell you. We talked to your husband. He told us the whole story.
How can you tell? How do you know he's not a policeman?
He's not, ma'am. We're sure of that.
Harry said he was. Showed Harry his badge.
Well, that doesn't make him a policeman, ma'am. We had your husband look at pictures of every officer in this area. He convinced himself that Williams isn't a policeman.
Well, if he isn't a policeman, who is he?
That's what we want to find out. Will you help us? Mrs. Lawrence?
You'll have to excuse me. I didn't mean to be nasty. Just that I've been sick. All this trouble, Harry in jail.
Yes, ma'am, we understand that. Now, you say Williams was here today. About what time was that?
It was before lunch, about 11:30, quarter to 12, I think. He came here to get money. That's what he always came for.
Did he say he'd be back?
No, I told him never to come back. Told him Harry was in jail. All the money we gave him, what good did it do? Said I'd go to the city hall if he ever came back.
What'd he say to that?
He said Harry had to expect an arrest now and then. I told him Harry wasn't going to get arrested anymore. He was through with all that junk. People like him, too.
Uh-huh.
And then he swore at me. Called me some real nasty names. Told me I'd better keep my mouth shut or I'd get worse than Harry did. Then he went out and slammed the door.
Was he driving a car? Did you notice?
No, I never saw him in one.
Is there anything you know about Williams at all? I mean, anything that would help us locate him, maybe?
No, I don't think so. All I know is he said he was a policeman. His name was Ray Williams. Couldn't Harry tell you anything? Maybe he knows.
No, ma'am, he couldn't tell us much.
Oh, excuse me, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Nice pet shop. Yeah? What's that? Oh, what? Hello? He hung up.
Ma'am?
It was Ray Williams. Said he just drove by here. He saw us.
Well, what do you want?
Said he saw me talking to you. He knows you're a policeman. Told me to keep my mouth shut. Said if I don't, he's coming back.
Yeah?
He said he'd kill me.
Before we left, we called in and arranged for a 24-hour stakeout on Lawrence's pet shop and also on the Lawrence home. Until the suspect was apprehended, she would be given a 24-hour protection. The next day, we picked up Mrs. Lawrence and brought her downtown to the City Hall, room 23. We went through the same procedure with her as we had with her husband. Like her husband, she was unable to identify any of the photographs of police officers in the area. In addition to the personnel photographs, Mrs. Lawrence also went through a group of pictures which Sergeants Reiner and Phillips came up with. They'd had a run made through the staff's office on all known extortionists using the same M.O. Williams used, posing as a police officer. From this group, both Mr. and Mrs. Lawrence gave us 2 partial identifications. Both men were picked up, questioned, and eliminated. Meantime, we'd gotten out a local broadcast and a teletype was sent to George Brereton, CII Sacramento, asking for assistance in identifying the extortion suspect. The investigation went on. 2 days passed. No leads on the suspect. In checking on other possible victims of the extortionist, Ray Williams, we drove to interview Myra Thomas, operator of a beauty shop out on Crenshaw. She was a tall, good-looking brunette in her early 30s.
This man we're looking for, Miss Thomas, Ray Williams, we understand he's a friend of yours.
Please, Sergeant, you've described the man to me. You told me his name. It doesn't mean a thing to me. I don't know him.
Well, then how did he get your name, miss?
I'm sure I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Well, now, apparently the man knows you, or he knows about you.
I don't think I understand you. It makes you think this man Williams knows me.
We've already told you, ma'am. Mr. Lawrence says that when Ray Williams first approached him, he used your name as a means of introduction. Now, it's not a coincidence. I think you'll admit that.
Well, I just don't understand what it has to do with me. I know how you feel. I have an idea what you're thinking. I was in trouble once, that bookmaking thing. I learned my lesson, though. I'm through with that business.
We're not here about that old arrest, ma'am. We don't want to bother you. Just thought you might be able to help us locate Williams.
I'm sorry. I don't think I can.
Possibly he might have been using another name, ma'am.
I still wouldn't know him. description doesn't sound like anybody I ever knew.
You know the Lawrences pretty well, do you?
Yes, I wouldn't say pretty well, but I do know them.
Have you seen them lately, either one of them?
No, I haven't.
You haven't talked with Mrs. Lawrence the last couple of days?
No, why?
We thought Mrs. Lawrence might have told you what kind of a man this Ray Williams is.
What do you mean? What's so bad about posing as a policeman?
Well, it's more than that, ma'am. He telephoned Mrs. Lawrence, threatened her if she talked to the police about it.
What?
Yes, ma'am. He said he'd kill her.
Oh, no.
Yes, ma'am, that's right.
Couldn't he? He wouldn't do a thing like that.
Do you know him that well?
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Because of its quality, Fatima is the one king-size cigarette that stands out. Here's the practical way to prove that yourself.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Because of its quality, its extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos, more and more smokers coast to coast are switching to Fatima every day.
Buy Fatima. Your money back plus postage if you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking.
Just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Add to your smoking enjoyment. Smoke king-size Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Get Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
The idea of an extortionist posing as a policeman to obtain money certainly was nothing new. The idea is as old as crime itself. It's one of the most vicious types of extortion in the eyes of law enforcement agencies because so many such cases go unreported to proper authorities by the victims. Usually, the victim is a person of circumstances with something to hide. The extortionist discovers the person's secret by one means or another, and he begins the never-ending process of draining the victim of his last dollar, all under the guise of being a police officer. If the victim's intelligent enough, at the first approach by the extortionist, he takes the matter to the proper authorities. If he isn't, and he's lucky enough eventually to escape the extortion trap, he goes on for the rest of his life believing that a man who was hired to protect him was the source of all his trouble. And for the rest of his life, he hangs on to his idea, and he passes it on to others. A complete disrespect for law and law enforcement officers. Saturday, October 22nd, 2:15 p.m. Frank Smith and I continued questioning the beauty shop operator, Myra Thomas. The more we talked with her, the more we were convinced that she was acquainted with the suspect, Ray Williams. In order to convince her of the suspect's viciousness, we drove her over to see Mrs. Lawrence at the pet shop. After their talk, we drove Myra Thomas back to the beauty shop, and she told us the story.
Guess I have to admit it. He certainly had me fooled. I thought he was a policeman.
You say he showed you his identification, ma'am. I mean, when he first approached you.
Yes, he showed me a badge. It looked authentic to me. And the way he talked, the things he said, I thought he was a policeman. I really did.
Now, you've heard our end of the story, Miss Thomas. You've talked to Mrs. Lawrence. Are you willing to help us now?
It won't get around, will it? Won't be in the newspapers?
They won't get it from us, no.
You won't tell my husband, will you? He doesn't have to know all about this.
No, ma'am. Not unless you want him to.
Well, I don't. We're not getting along too well as it is. Williams is the trouble, too. Guess I should have told you when you first asked me.
What's that, miss?
Just like the Lawrences, I was paying them off, too. A lot longer than the Lawrences. Every week I paid them, and I couldn't tell anyone. Couldn't even tell my husband.
What's that, ma'am?
Guess I thought I was smart. The bookmaking thing, I mean. Started taking a few bets from the girls in the shop, just small ones. I didn't mean anything by it. And Miss Williams came in one day. Said his girlfriend made a bet with me, and he wanted to place one, too.
Mm-hmm. Did you take it?
Yes, like I told her. I thought I was smart. As soon as I took the bet, he showed me the badge, told me he was a police officer. That's when it started. Same thing, just like the Lawrences.
How about after you were arrested, Miss Thomas? What happened with Williams then?
Oh, after I got it settled, Williams came back to the shop again. I told him then I was through with the horses. Wouldn't have anything to do with it again. After that, I didn't see him for a while. I sure was glad.
You've seen him since? You know where we can locate him now?
Oh, no, I don't. I have seen him since, though. You promised me my husband won't know about this. You give me your word.
Miss Thomas, if you don't want your husband to know about this, it's your business. He'll never hear it from us.
got to be that way, believe me. I love my husband. Ray Williams has caused us nothing but trouble. Can't tell you the worry he's caused me. I mean, besides all the money I paid him, too.
You mean you're still paying him?
Yes, that's right. Every week. You don't know how low that man is. I can't begin to tell you. I thought he was a policeman.
Well, why are you still paying him off, ma'am? You mind telling us that?
No, I guess I don't mind. I've gone this far.
All right.
It was while my husband and I were separated. We had a fight. We were separated. Started going out on dates. Nothing serious. One night I was out with a fella from out of town. Nice fella. Ray Williams saw me and a fella sitting in the car. Parking lot right in back of the bar. We were necking. Williams come by and he knew that I saw him.
I see.
It wasn't anything wrong, really. I love my husband. He wouldn't understand about the fella that night, though. I mean, if Williams ever told him.
That's what he's been holding over your head, Henry?
Yes, it's more than a year now. I've paid him every week. I'll tell you the truth, Sergeant. I can't go on much longer. I can't.
Well, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Just help us locate the man. That's all you have to do now.
Well, I don't know where he lives, but I know he's going to contact me. He always does.
And that's what we'd like to know. How does he contact you?
He phones usually once a week, maybe every other week. Calls me and tells me to meet him someplace and bring the money, $50 every week.
And you have a regular time that he calls you?
No, almost any time. It's never the same day, never the same place I meet him. I haven't heard from him in over a week now. He should be calling pretty soon, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Usually call here, or does he phone you at home?
Both places. He seems to know where to reach me. I don't know what I'm going to do this time. I just don't know.
Ma'am?
I haven't got the money for him. I'm broke. $4 or $5. That's all I have.
Well, don't worry about it.
But he's going to want his payoff. You know that. What am I going to do?
This time it's on us. Before we left Myra Thomas at the beauty shop, we had a definite understanding that as soon as she heard from the extortionist, Ray Williams, she was to call us immediately, any time of the day or night. Then we called the office and made arrangements for stakeouts to be placed both at the beauty shop and at Myra Thomas's home in case Williams decided to contact her in person. The Thomas woman was given a plain envelope containing $50 in marked bills, which she was to hand over to the suspect the next time he demanded his regular payoff. 2 days went by. Tuesday, October 25th. No word on the suspect. Thursday, the 27th. Still no word. Saturday morning, October 29th.
I got it.
Right.
Vice detail, Smith. How's that? Oh, yeah. I see. Hold on, huh? Pencil, Joe?
Yeah, here you go.
What was that place again? Okay. The time? Yeah, surely. About half an hour. Yes, ma'am. We'll be there. Goodbye.
What you got, Frank? Anything?
Yeah, Myra Thomas.
Yeah?
He wants to see us. I told her we'd be over in about half an hour.
What's the deal?
Williams called her. He wants his money.
11:15 a.m. Frank and I got in the car and drove out to see Myra Thomas at her apartment. She told us that the suspect, Ray Williams, had telephoned her shortly before 11 o'clock that morning and set up a date to meet her for his regular payoff at 10 o'clock that night. The designated meeting place was a small nightclub out on Santa Monica Boulevard. The Thomas woman was to meet Williams at the bar. We told her to get there a few minutes ahead of time, and if she happened to spot Frank and I in the nightclub, she was to give no sign of recognition. As far as the actual payoff was concerned, we instructed her to hand over the envelope containing the money to the suspect when he demanded it, without any argument. Shortly after 9 o'clock that night, Frank and I entered the nightclub and got a table directly adjoining the bar. It was a modernistic affair, lighted from below with a blue fluorescent lamp. A 4-piece orchestra was playing at the rear of the place. Nobody was dancing. Only a few of the tables were occupied, but the bar was doing a good business. We waited. 9:30, 9:45. We spotted Myra Thomas as she entered the club. She went to the far end of the bar, sat down on one of the stools, and ordered a highball. 9:50, 10 p.m. We kept waiting. 10:15, 10:30. Still no sign of the suspect. We watched Myra Thomas order another highball.
Getting late, Joe.
Yeah, what time you got?
25 to 11. Joe,
Just
came in, coming this way, gray suit.
Yeah,
What do you think?
Well, the description fits, doesn't it?
Yeah, must be. Going up to Miss Thomas, talking to her.
All right.
He's got the envelope.
All right, just a minute. Let's give him room.
He's leaving. Going for the front door. What do you say?
All right, let's go.
Not wasting any time.
Come on, let's hurry. Down the street. Come on.
All right, mister, hold it.
What's the matter? What do you want?
Police officers would like to talk to you.
Me? What about? What's the matter?
You got your identification?
Oh, sure, right here. What do you want?
We'd like to look at it.
Oh, sure, I hear you. Oh, excuse me.
That's your badge?
Oh, no, it's nothing.
Where'd you get that phony badge?
Friend of mine? Why, what's the matter?
What do you got in your right-hand pocket?
Nothing, just an envelope. Why?
Is there money in that envelope?
What'd you say?
I said, is there any money in that envelope? Currency.
Yeah, I think so. Why? What's the difference?
You know the serial numbers on the bills in that envelope?
Look, I don't know what you mean, serial numbers on the money. What are you getting at?
You got 7 pieces of paper money in that envelope. 3 $10 bills and 4 5s.
Yeah, what about it?
Extortion, mister. You know the pitch. Now, come on, let's go.
Now, hold it. Wait a minute. Let's get this straight, huh? So I got an envelope in my pocket. Ordinary envelope. That's supposed to make me a criminal?
No. No more than that badge makes you a cop. Come on.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On January 8th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 86, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, our sales records show that more and more smokers every day are switching to king-size Fatima. Now, this makes us feel especially good because it backs up what we've been telling you, that Fatima gives you more for your money. No other king-size cigarette can match Fatima quality. When you buy your first pack and compare them with the cigarette you've been smoking, you'll notice Fatimas do have a better flavor and aroma, and you'll like their extra mild and soothing smoke. Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Raymond Edward Williams was tried and convicted of extortion, 1 count, and impersonating an officer, 1 count. He received sentences as prescribed by law and is now serving his term in the state penitentiary. Extortion is punishable by imprisonment for not less than 1 nor more than 10 years. Impersonation of an officer is punishable by a fine of not more than $1,000 or by imprisonment for not more than 1 year or by both such fine and imprisonment.
Friends, sometime during the next 2 weeks, you'll be asked to buy a poppy in memory of those who fought to keep freedom alive. Give generously when you're asked and wear your poppy proudly.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Herb Ellis, Vic Rodman, June Whitley. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
King-size Fatima, made by the same people who make popular Chesterfield cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy next on NBC.
Ladies and gentlemen, the entire production staff and technicians on Dragnet wish to thank the American Weekly and the television editors of the various newspapers which distribute the American Weekly for voting Dragnet the best mystery drama on television for 1951-1952. Our deepest thanks for this fine recognition. The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a juvenile detail. An 8-month-old baby is stolen from its mother. It's the 3rd case of child stealing reported in less than 3 weeks. There's no lead on the suspect. Your job, get him. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, June 18th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Juvenile Division. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Stein. My name's Friday. It was 6:30 p.m. when we got back to 1335 Georgia Street, second floor, the squad room.
Hi, been waiting for you. Hi, Captain. How's it going? Any sign of the baby?
No, not yet. We're doing everything we can. We haven't got a lead to our name.
Lousy thing. How's it stack up? Anything like the last two cases?
Yeah, quite a bit. Same neighborhood, same general M.O.
We checked with just about everybody in the vicinity. No one saw the baby taken. Happened about 10 o'clock this morning?
10:15. This Mrs. Donaldson drove down to the neighborhood shopping center to do her marketing. She had the baby in a bassinet in the back seat of her car. Baby boy, 8 months old.
Mm-hmm.
She pulled into the parking lot right behind the market, left the baby asleep in the car. She went in to do her shopping. When she came out, the baby was gone.
How long was she in the market?
She told us about 20 minutes. We talked to a half a dozen people who drove their cars in and out of the parking lot about that time. They couldn't help me. They didn't see anyone loitering around.
How about delivery trucks? They usually unload supplies at the back door, don't they?
Already checked on that. We talked to the driver of a bread truck. He was making a delivery about that time. He couldn't help us either. The mother, Mrs. Donaldson, she's the only one who came up with anything at all. It's not much, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah?
Well, when she parked her car and got out to go in the market, she noticed a woman sitting in the car parked next to hers. When she came back and found her baby was gone, she noticed that this woman's car was gone, too.
Mrs. Donaldson described the woman for you? Yeah, she was middle-aged. She had gray hair. That's all she remembered. How about the car the woman was in?
It was a green sedan. That's the only thing Mrs. Donaldson could tell us. She's not even sure of that.
And there's no one else around the market that remembered the car, huh?
Well, if there is, we haven't found him.
We covered the whole neighborhood, Skipper. Talked to everybody we could. Got us nowhere. Smoke, Captain? Oh, thanks. You, Joe?
Yeah, thank you. I got a light.
Okay.
Captain?
No kickback yet on the broadcast. The old points you got out on the baby?
No, nothing. Up to now, it's a carbon copy of the last two jobs. No suspect, no motive.
Mrs. Donaldson can't think of any reason at all for it.
No, not a one. Her husband's a teamster. They don't have much money. She couldn't think of any friend or relative who might possibly want to take their baby.
The baby normal, in good health? Yeah, perfect. It's got me. This makes it about one a week. Just about. Martin baby was taken on the 5th. The Andrews baby was taken on the 12th. Both of them recovered in 24 hours. Nothing wrong with either of them. Sure doesn't make sense.
Must be a psycho case of some kind. I think we can go along on that.
This one happened near 8th and Dinehart, that right?
Yeah, same neighborhood as the other two. About a 12-square-block area there.
How about that lead you had on the old man out there? Did you exhaust that?
Yeah, the old gardener?
Mm-hmm.
We double-checked him this afternoon. He wasn't anywhere near the market when the Donaldson baby was taken.
How about the other two people you had your eye on? Either of them anywhere near the scene at the time? Neither one of them, Skipper. Both clear. How's it stand now?
Well, we're doing everything possible. Dean Bergman went over the Donaldson car for prints. The bassinet, too. There's no word from him yet. Special detail from Metro Division still going over the neighborhood. Nothing from them either.
No sign of any physical evidence, huh? I mean, besides any possible prints. No, nothing, Captain. The usual number of tips from people in the neighborhood. Checked on all of them. They went nowhere. Well, we've just about run the gamut on this thing. You have anything in mind? Well, Joe and I were kicking around an idea on the way back in. Figure it might be worth a try. I mean, providing we get the Donaldson case cleared. Yeah? Joe?
Well, for one thing, we figure the neighborhood out there works in our favor. All three of the babies were taken in the same 12-square-block area. It's the strongest part of the M.O. that we got to work on. Now, if we get good enough coverage in that area out there, it might lead somewhere.
What kind of coverage?
Well, maybe a system of decoys, something to draw the suspect out at the right time, the right place.
Makes sense. What have you got in mind?
Well, Frank and I were figuring if we could round up half a dozen policewomen or so, let them work different points around the neighborhood and make it obvious that they're housewives.
Yeah.
Have each one of them with a baby carriage. Spot them at the shopping centers out there in that area. They leave the carriages outside the stores, go through the motions of doing their shopping, and cover each one of them.
Mm-hmm. What do you do for bait? I think we can fake it, Skipper. Put a life-size doll in each of the carriages, keep it pretty well covered. Very chance it'll get us a nibble if we work it right. About half a dozen policewomen, that's what you figure?
Yeah, I figure that ought to do it.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Juvenile Division, Captain Stein. Yeah, that's right. How's that? I see. Mrs. Bolger. Yes, ma'am, I understand. How's that? Yes, ma'am, if you like. All right, thank you. Goodbye. Queer one.
Yeah.
Either one of you contacted Mrs. Marion Bolger the last month or so?
No, it's not familiar to me. How about you, Frank?
Don't recall the name. Why?
Oh, sure.
That was her on the phone. She wants to be investigated. Says she wants to prove to us that she's not involved in any of these child-stealing cases.
How do you spell that name?
Marion Bolger, Bolger, Ewing Street address.
No, I never heard of her. What's the pitch?
Got me. She kept saying she's got to have her name cleared. She's innocent. Kept insisting she didn't steal the Donaldson baby.
Well, we didn't say she did. We don't even know the woman.
You're going to. Check her out.
We ran the name Marion Bolger through R&I, but there was no previous criminal record on her. 7:25 p.m. Frank Smith and I left the office and drove out to the Ewing Street address to interview the Bolger woman. Before we called at her home, we checked with some of the neighbors. Most of them had a favorable opinion of her. They described her as a pleasant woman, slightly eccentric. The only complaint was that the Bolger woman was very fond of children and that she kept most of the youngsters on the block well supplied with cake and candy, despite repeated objections from the youngsters' parents. Other than that, they seemed to like her. 8:05 p.m., Frank and I called on Mrs. Bolger, and she ushered us into a neatly furnished living room. She was an older woman, possibly in her early 60s, dark brown hair, streaked with gray.
It's the honest truth, Sergeant. Anybody who really knows me would tell you I wouldn't do a thing like that. I love children. I want all of them to be happy. I wouldn't steal anybody's
Just
baby.
a minute, Mrs. Bolger, please. Something we'd like to get straight.
I don't care how it looks. I don't care what they say. I didn't do it. I didn't steal those other two babies. I didn't steal the Donaldson baby either.
How'd you know the Donaldson baby was missing, ma'am? It just happened this morning.
The evening paper. The whole story's in there. It's the first I knew about it to help me when I got my evening paper. Please, Sergeant, you got to believe me.
All right, now try to take it easy, ma'am. What gives you the idea that we're accusing you of taking those babies?
Well, you haven't yet. Not in so many words. You're thinking about it, though. I know that. You've been told.
How do you mean, told what?
You know what I mean. All those stories going around about me. And just because I like children, because I enjoy them, I understand them. Just because of that, they try to make me out a witch or something, trying to say I took those poor little babies.
All right, just a minute, ma'am. Who said you took the babies?
Down at the store this afternoon. I heard them. That grocery clerk and that silly Mrs. Murdoch. They laughed about it. Tried to make out there's only fooling. Well, I knew better. They weren't fooling. They meant it. Accusing me of such a terrible thing. I just don't know when I've been so upset.
Well, now, what grounds would they have for saying anything like that, ma'am? I mean, even if they were fooling.
Only because I love children, that's all. People in the neighborhood are the same way. They don't like me. They go around saying things about me. Just because I understand their children better than they do. Just because I know how to treat children.
No, I think you got it wrong, Mrs. Bolger. The only complaint your neighbors have is that you treat children too well. A little too much candy, huh?
Well, nothing wrong with giving a child candy. Good homemade fudge. I make it myself. Besides, how would you know about that?
We talked to your neighbors, ma'am. They had a lot of nice things to say about you.
Yes, I just bet they did. Nasty, dirty stories. They've been passing them all over the neighborhood about me.
No, ma'am, you've got it wrong.
Just let me show you. Come in here, this way, the dining room.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yes, ma'am, it's very nice.
You see how I decorated the table? Paper streamers all over the room. It was supposed to be a party for the children in the neighborhood. I worked a whole week getting it ready. I made the cakes myself, decorated them too. I made everything in my own kitchen. Candy, sandwiches. Took me a whole week. And they didn't even come. They didn't come.
Ma'am?
The neighborhood children. It was supposed to be for them. Special summer party I wanted to give them today. They didn't even come. The parents wouldn't let them. Not one of them. It's a crime. Terrible crime. All this good food.
Well, now, maybe there was a mistake, ma'am.
There wasn't any mistake. I invited the children, 14 of them. Mothers wouldn't let them come. I had everything ready. Little favors for each one of them. Now, look. Ice cream's all melted. Hot cocoa boiled away to nothing.
Yes, ma'am.
Even the paper streamers are coming down. Such a mean thing to do. Keeping children from a party. Such a mean thing.
Well, we don't like to bother you, Mrs. Bolger. Just like to ask you a few routine questions, and we'll let you alone.
Anything you want to know, Sergeant?
Can you account for your time this morning, ma'am, between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m.?
Yes, of course I can. I was right here in the house getting things ready for the party. My friend Aggie Benson was with me. She's a school chum of mine. She was helping me get things ready.
Well, then you didn't leave the house at any time this morning, then?
No, sir, I didn't. You can ask Aggie. She'll tell you.
Do you have a car, Mrs. Bolger?
Oh, my, no. I wouldn't know what to do with it if I had one. I never learned to drive. Why'd you want to know?
Just routine, ma'am. Well, I guess we'd better be going, Frank.
All right, sir.
And you don't believe those stories, do you? I mean, just because I like children, I'd steal those babies. You don't believe that, do you?
No, ma'am. We haven't any reason to believe it.
I knew you'd understand. I wouldn't do a thing like that. I just love children, Sergeant. Never had any of my own. Living here by myself. No husband. Lonely. Terrible thing being lonely.
Yes, ma'am, yes.
There's only one answer for it. Children. Big family. It's an old saying. It's very true.
Yeah.
When you get to be 63, you want something else to wake up to beside the morning paper.
8:40 p.m. Before we headed back for the office, Frank and I made a thorough check on Mrs. Bolger, her background and her alibi. We found nothing to link her in any way with the child stealings. 9:15 p.m. We got back to the city hall and went directly to Leighton Fingerprints, where we met with Dean Bergman. He'd found several sets of prints on the Donaldsons' car and on the bassinet from which their baby had been stolen. Most of them were those of the parents, Mr. and Mrs. Donaldson. Bergman was unable to identify the 2 foreign prints found inside the car. We contacted the officers in charge of the special detail checking the neighborhood where the latest child stealing had occurred. They'd failed to uncover a lead. 7:48 a.m. the following morning.
Friday?
Morning, Captain.
Good piece of news. The Donaldson baby, they just found him.
Where?
Highland Park area. They found him in a cardboard box. Apparently he's all right. A little exposure. Doctors are checking him over now at Georgia Street.
How about the suspect? Any sign of him?
Not a trace.
It was little or no different than the first 2 cases. Some 21 hours after he'd been abducted from the car in the parking lot at the rear of the market near 8th and Dinehart, the Donaldson baby had been recovered apparently unharmed. The cardboard box in which the baby had been found was gone over for fingerprints. Routine investigation at the scene and in the neighborhood where the child had been found failed to turn up a lead on the abductor. Frank and I checked with Dr. George Hall, who'd examined the child. After that, we talked with Mr. and Mrs. Donaldson. The details of the case coincided almost point for point with the first 2 abductions. The baby had been taken, then recovered in a 24-hour period. Outside of slight exposure, the child was unharmed. Also, like the 2 cases preceding it, something which the child was wearing at the time of his abduction was missing. In the first case, it was a small pink sweater. In the second, a pair of shoes the baby was wearing. In the case of the Donaldson baby, it was a sterling silver ID bracelet with the initials J.D. engraved on it. During the next 5 days, Frank and I ran down every lead we could get our hands on. They went nowhere. Our system of policewomen decoys was put in effect. It failed to get a rise. On the 6th day, Thursday, June 26th, 5:30 p.m., we got word of another child stealing, this time in the Echo Park area. We drove out to talk to the mother, a Mrs. Chester Osborne.
Yeah, that's right. I did the same thing I do every morning. Gave the baby a bath, dressed her, put her out in the backyard in her buggy. She usually plays a while, then she takes her nap.
And about what time did you discover your baby was missing?
I don't know exactly. About 2 o'clock, I guess. Maybe a couple of minutes after. Went out to see how she was, looked in the buggy, and she was gone.
Well, it's almost 6 o'clock now, Mrs. Osborne. How is it that you waited so long before you notified us?
Just kept hoping it was a mistake, that's all. I went from house to house all over the neighborhood. Went as far as 3 blocks away. I asked everybody. Nobody saw my baby. You don't know what it means to me.
The telephone, Mrs. Osborne.
Would you answer it, please? Whoever it is, take the number. I'll call him back.
Yes, ma'am. Be glad to. Hello. Yeah. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, Harry. We're here now. This is Friday. How's that? When? I see. Where? That's so. Uh-huh. Okay, Harry, thanks. Yeah, tell him we'll be right in. Right away. Okay, bye. Well, that was our office, Mrs. Osborne. You can stop worrying now.
What?
It's about your little girl. She's all right.
What do you mean?
I just found her 3 blocks from here. Again, with the lone exception of the time element, the Osborne baby's abduction resembled closely the 3 previous cases. The crime occurred in the same general area. The same general method of operation was employed. And again, outside of slight exposure, the child was recovered unharmed. There was also an article of clothing missing, a pink knitted bonnet. And, as in the previous 3 cases, the suspect had abandoned the baby without detection. Routine investigation by the crime laboratory crew and juvenile officers working the case failed to turn up a lead. During the week that followed, additional personnel for both decoys and stakeouts were assigned to the area without results. Friday, July 4th, 10 a.m.
Joe, you busy?
What do you got, Frank?
Galvin and Mildred Leslie just called in on this child stealing thing. Looks like it might be something.
Yeah, what's the pitch?
Well, this Leslie girl's employed as a maid for a Mr. and Mrs. Roth, R-O-T-H. She's a stockbroker. She's worked for him a year or so, she says.
Yeah.
The Leslie girl's an upstairs maid for the Roths. She's been following this baby stealing case in the papers right along. She thinks maybe Mrs. Roth can tell us something about it.
Yeah, how's that?
Well, the Leslie girl was cleaning Mrs. Roth's bedroom yesterday. She came across a few things stored back in one of the closets. Baby things. Pink sweater, pink bonnet, and a pair of baby shoes. She says they've all been used. They're not new.
Well, a lot of mothers save baby clothes, things like that.
No, the Roth woman wouldn't have a reason to.
Yeah?
She's never had any children.
are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
The only way you can prove to yourself that Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes is to compare them with the brand you've been smoking.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Your money back plus postage if you're not convinced Fatima is better than your present king-size cigarette.
Just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
More and more of your friends are switching to king-size Fatimas every day.
Compare them yourself tomorrow. Buy Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack and enjoy the added protection of Fatima quality.
Friday, July 4th, 11 a.m. Frank Smith and I left the office and drove out to interview Mildred Leslie at her apartment. She told us substantially the same thing she told Frank on the phone. The Leslie girl had been employed as a maid by Mr. and Mrs. Roth for almost a year. She went on to tell us that for the last few months or so, Mrs. Roth, who was a fairly prominent clubwoman, had been acting peculiarly, and that Mr. Roth was worried about her. According to the Leslie girl, he'd consulted a doctor several times about his wife. As for the articles of baby clothing, they'd been found stored back on a shelf in Mrs. Roth's bedroom closet. The Leslie girl told us that she happened to find them while cleaning and dusting Mrs. Roth's bedroom. Each of the articles she claimed she saw seemed to tie in directly with the child stealings. A pink sweater, a pink bonnet, a pair of baby shoes. Identical items of clothing had been taken from each of the previous abduction victims. After we left Mildred Leslie, Frank and I got to a phone, called the record bureau, and had them make a run for us on Mrs. Roth. She had no previous criminal record. 1:20 p.m. We called Mr. Roth at his place of business, but the office was closed because of the 4th of July holiday. We got in the car and drove out to the Roth home, an old 2-story mansion just above Silver Lake Reservoir. Mrs. Roth wasn't at home. We interviewed her husband in the living room.
Well, what seems to be the trouble, Sergeant? Why would you want to see my wife? There's a few questions we'd like to ask her, Mr. Roth. Can you tell us where she is now? She took a drive with some friends of hers. I think they were going down to the beach club. Why?
Well, we're investigating a juvenile case, Mr. Roth. We think maybe your wife can give us some information on it.
Well, I'm sorry she isn't home. It's too bad you didn't call this morning. She didn't leave until after 11. She'll be home later tonight if you care to call back. You're sure it's not something I can help you with?
Well, yes, sir. Maybe you can. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your wife's activities the last month or so.
Well, how do you mean? Some of the social work she does with the club? Not quite, Mr. Roth. You said you were from the juvenile division. Is it something regarding her work with the underprivileged kids? Her club does quite a bit of that, you know. Afraid I don't know too much about it, though.
No, sir, it's not that.
Well, I don't think I understand. What is it about?
Well, Mr. Roth, we want you to understand that this is merely a routine investigation. We don't want to offend you in any way, but we have some information that we've got to check out.
What do you mean? What kind of information?
Well, there's been a series of child stealing cases the last month or so. We're the investigating officers on it. Maybe you read about them in the papers.
Yes, I have, but what would my wife have to do with that? Do you think she has some information for you? She didn't say anything about it to me.
Yes, sir. I think she can help us quite a bit.
I don't know exactly when she'll be home. I don't have any place to contact her. I do know the club's taking a group of children to the Coliseum tonight, the big 4th of July fireworks display, you know.
Yes, I see.
I'm going to meet my wife there tonight. Maybe I could give her a message for you, tell her to contact you.
All right, fine, Mr. Roth. There is something that you can do for us right now, though.
Yes?
Would you take us up to your wife's room? I'd like to have a look at it.
Take you to her room? I don't understand. What for?
Well, like we told you before, sir, it's a routine investigation. I think if you take us to your wife's room, I think we can clear the whole thing up now. It probably won't be necessary to bother you tonight.
Well, I certainly don't understand, but come along if you like. The Doris's room is right at the head of the stairs.
Thank you.
It certainly has me baffled. What would there be about Doris's room? It has to be investigated.
We don't know that there is anything, sir. Just appreciate your cooperation.
Not at all. We haven't anything to hide. Here we are. This is her room. Now, what is it you're looking for?
And that's the bedroom closet, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Like to look at it if we could?
Certainly. Go right ahead.
All right.
There's a shelf up there, Joe. Can you reach it all right?
Yeah, I think so.
What is it? What are you looking for?
Here you go, Frank.
Yeah. Pink bonnet, pink sweater.
That's it. Here's the baby shoes. The ID bracelet. Yeah, initials J.D.
Not much doubt.
No.
Baby clothes. Bracelet. Never seen them around here. How'd you know they were here?
Well, we weren't sure that they were.
But I've never seen them before. What are they doing in Doris's room? Why would she have them? I have to talk to her about this.
Yes, sir, so do we. After finding the evidence in his wife's bedroom closet, we continued to interview Mr. Roth. We briefed him on the details of the case and explained about the articles of baby clothing. He was very cooperative, but he found it hard to believe that his wife was responsible for the abduction of the babies. He told us that early in their marriage, his wife did have a child which died shortly after birth. Complications left her unable to have any more children. When she found out about this, it resulted in Mrs. Roth having a nervous breakdown, but apparently she recovered completely. Roth went on to tell us that his wife was very fond of children and that she devoted a great deal of time to social work, caring for underprivileged children. He also told us that during the past month, with the recurrence of her nervous condition, she'd been under a doctor's care. Shortly after 8 o'clock that night, along with Mr. Roth, we drove to the Coliseum where crowds of people were gathering for the annual July 4th fireworks display. Roth pointed out his wife. We went over and he introduced us.
These officers would like to talk to us, honey. Let's step over here.
Well, I can't leave the children alone. Can't we talk later?
No, honey, it's pretty important. I think you better talk to them now.
Well, all right. If you say so, you'll have to stay and watch the children, though.
They'll be all right. We can keep an eye on them from over there.
No, I can't leave them alone. You'll have to stay.
Well, all right.
Ma'am, I wonder if you step over here, please.
Yes, all right.
This ought to be all right here.
Beautiful night tonight, isn't it? Children just love these things. I think they're just about ready to start the show. Yes. Isn't that gorgeous?
Yes, ma'am. We'd like to drive you and your husband downtown to Juvenile Division. We'd like to talk to you.
What do you mean? I can't leave now. I have these children with me. What did you want to see me about? What's the trouble?
I think you know why we're here, Mrs. Roth.
I don't. Why do you want to talk to me?
Well, we can start here, ma'am. We were at your home this afternoon. Your husband showed us your bedroom, the closet. We found the things up on the top shelf.
What?
The baby clothes, the bracelet.
Downtown? Just baby clothes. Had them in my closet. It doesn't mean anything.
I'm afraid you're wrong. It means a good deal, ma'am. You know that.
Yes. All right.
Would you want to tell us about it, Ms. Roth? Ms. Roth?
Where do I start? There's no beginning. Just started. I couldn't help myself. What can I say?
You just tell us what happened. Start any place.
My baby died. And they said I couldn't have any more. Guess it started then. I told my husband, told the doctor, too. They didn't understand. Nobody understands. It's all I wanted, my children, my own children.
How about the Martin baby, Mrs. Roth? The first one you took. How'd that happen?
Look, another one. Purple, white, beautiful.
What about it, ma'am? The Martin baby? How'd that happen?
I saw him in the baby carriage outside the market there. Such a cute baby. Pulled the covers back, looked at him. I didn't think I was going to steal him. After I looked at him, I just wanted to hold him. Hold him close, so I picked him up. You understand, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
He was such a sweet baby. Could have been mine. I kept on holding him. Then I started to put him down, back in his carriage. I couldn't.
What do you mean, ma'am?
I couldn't put the baby down. It was just like mine. It was mine. I can't explain it. I took the blanket from the buggy. I put it around him. I walked away. Nobody knew. It was my baby.
Yes, ma'am. Would you go on?
Oh, my head. Terrible headache. It's so hard to tell you. I couldn't even tell my husband. I lied. I'd take the baby and stop overnight at a motel. I'd tell my husband lies. I couldn't let him know.
Well, you knew you were doing wrong, didn't you?
Yes, I knew it. Not when I was taking the baby, though. Not when I picked them up. Not when I held them in my arms, held them close. It didn't seem wrong. Most natural thing in the world. I just pretended. I'd pick the baby up and I'd hold it close. It was my baby. All of a sudden, it was my baby. Later on, I had to stop pretending. The baby wasn't mine. I had to give it back. Isn't that wonderful? Look, streamers, a shower of stars. Marvelous.
Why'd you abandon the children, ma'am, without notifying anyone?
I knew they'd be found. I made sure of that. I always put them someplace where they had to be found. Terrible headache. You don't know what it's been like. I couldn't tell anyone, no one.
Yes, ma'am. You about ready to go now?
All right. I could only explain it to you. I mean, having a baby, then losing it. You don't know what it's like. No one will ever know what it's like. No one.
You took 4 babies, ma'am.
Yes.
How about their mothers?
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On October 10th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, I believe all of us are willing to take practical advice. That's why I like to make it plain that I want you to compare Fatima with the king-size cigarettes you've been smoking. I know that's the tried, practical way thousands have convinced themselves Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. You'll find Fatima gives you more for your money, an extra mild, soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Tomorrow, get Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all king-size cigarettes.
Doris Evelyn Roth was tried and convicted of child stealing under Section 278 Penal Code, 4 counts. She was placed on 5 years probation. One of the terms of probation required that she would be under strict supervision of a competent psychiatrist. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Herb Ellis, Vic Perrin, Virginia Gregg. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
King-size Fatima, made with the same people who make popular Chesterfield cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Each Thursday night, it's Counter Spy on NBC.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A woman is found dying in a vacant lot. Her identity unknown. Your job? Investigate. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, October 16th. It was cloudy in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. It was 9:48 p.m. when I got to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital, Dr. Hall's office.
Joe, how are you?
Hi, Doc. How about that case you got in from 7th and Union? How's she doing?
She died about 5 minutes ago.
Fill me in. What do you got on it?
You talked to the radio car officers, ones that handled the call?
Frank's talking to him now out in the lobby. Thought I'd check in with you while he was handling that end.
Not an awful lot to tell you, Joe. Ambulance G2 brought her in from the location. She was alive when they brought her in. Did everything I could for her. Didn't help much. Too far gone.
Yeah, what's it look like?
Chloroform poisoning. Pretty obvious. Probably self-administered. Looks like that anyway. She didn't last long.
It's a little unusual, huh? Chloroform?
Yeah. Under the circumstances, it sure is.
Anything else?
How do you mean?
Well, any probable causes? Any marks on her?
No, a little scratch on her wrist. That's about all.
Where you got her now? Can we look at her?
Yeah, bag number 3. Come on.
Ed Barrett called us, asked us for help. It's a rough night, huh?
Yeah. Traffic went crazy tonight. Dozen cases in the last 2 hours. Couple of homicides, too. Busy night.
You got the weekend coming up, huh?
Yeah, not looking forward to it. Here we go. Over here.
Chloroform sure hangs on, doesn't it? Sure strong.
Notice the burns around her mouth, the nose, discoloration.
Well, who is she? Any idea?
We got her down as Jane Doe. You're going to have to take it from there. Understand the radio car officers couldn't identify her.
Apparently pretty well off, huh? Nice clothes. Seems to be well kept.
I'd say so. Expensive jewelry there. Rings, wristwatch.
A little strange for a probable suicide, isn't it? Looks like she took good care of herself. Hair all done up, fingernails. About how old, would you say?
Not more than 35. Just about that. Here's the chart on her. Time arrival, 9:38 p.m. from southwest corner of 7th and Union, vacant lot. Reason for call, possible drunk woman down. Jane Doe, number 4. Female, Caucasian, approximate age 35. Weight 128 1/4. Height 5'4". Brown hair, hazel eyes. Listed as Nordic descent. Probable suicide. That's it.
Okay, Doc, thanks. I better look up Frank, see what he's got, huh?
Okay. Haven't notified the coroner yet. You fellas want to take care of that?
Yeah, sure, we'll call him. About all we can do unless we find some relatives to notify, huh?
Joe?
Yeah, Frank.
Oh, hi, Doc. How are you?
Frank, looks like you're losing weight.
Yeah, 4 pounds in 2 weeks. Not too bad for me, anyway. What'd you get, Joe?
Chloroform poisoning. Probable suicide. Find out who she is?
I got to get back to my office. If there's anything I can help you with, come on back.
Right, Doc. Thanks very much.
Okay.
How about it? Any identification?
No, I talked to the fellas that took the call. Unit 182 was a routine call. 390W down. They couldn't find out who put the call in. Said they found her in a vacant lot lying over against the side of the building.
Yeah.
They said she looked like she'd been drinking, then they got a whiff of the chloroform. And they found this empty container by her side. Here.
Yeah. It ties in.
They were careful handling it.
Anything else?
Well, while they're waiting for the ambulance, they talked to some of the people in the neighborhood. They couldn't tell them anything about the woman. The building they found her next to is a vacant store.
No identification on her at all?
No, nothing. No purse or wallet. I checked missing persons. No one of her description reported. Fellows who handled the call said they went over her clothing. No marks of identification.
Better notify Leighton Prince, huh? Maybe they can identify her.
Already called him, Joe. Looks like probable suicide. Sure, a new twist, though. Chloroform route.
Doesn't figure that.
What do you think?
I don't know. No violence committed on the body. No indication of robbery. She had a wristwatch on. Rings, too.
Wouldn't figure anyway. Chloroform angle.
Yeah. No other physical evidence out there, huh? I mean, besides the chloroform container?
Nothing else besides a handkerchief. Yeah, a plain white handkerchief, chloroform on it. They found it next to the body. It's the only thing that doesn't fit 100%.
What do you mean?
It's a man's handkerchief.
10:25 p.m. Frank and I took the dead woman's clothing, the handkerchief, and the almost empty container of chloroform and drove back downtown to the office. We dropped off the clothing and the handkerchief at the crime lab to be processed for possible identifying marks. The chloroform container was taken to latent fingerprints for examination. The following morning, the body of the unidentified woman was taken to the county morgue for posting. As soon as the dead woman's prints were made available to us, they were checked through our record bureau and also through the record bureau at the sheriff's office. In addition, they also made a run on her description. They were unable to identify her. We checked with the crime lab, but they couldn't help us either. A detailed examination of the dead woman's clothing failed to yield any leads as to her identity. Latent prints didn't have any better luck with the chloroform container. The only prints they found on it were those of the dead woman. Meantime, the morning papers had picked up the story and given it front page billing. 11:16 a.m.
How's that again, Doc? Yeah, I see. A little unusual, wouldn't you say? Yeah. Okay, we'll pick it up after lunch. Right, goodbye.
Anything?
Yeah, Doc Cephalo at the morgue just finished washing the body.
What'd he say?
The chloroform killed her. They even found traces of it in the stomach.
Huh?
That's right.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
Doesn't leave much doubt. Suicide.
No indication of anything else, is there? I got it. Homicide, Friday talking. Yes, sir. Yeah? Mitchell? That's so. Yeah, sure, be glad to. Yeah, we'll be here. You want to give us your address? Hello. Oh, here we go.
What was it, Joe?
Somebody named James Mitchell. He's on his way down to see us. Wants to talk to us about the dead woman.
Yeah?
He says he killed her. 11:50 a.m. While Frank and I waited around for Mitchell to show up, we checked his name through R&I, but we were unable to find anything on him. A few minutes before 1 p.m., a short, blonde-haired man in a blue serge suit entered the squad room and asked for us. He introduced himself as James Mitchell. Frank and I took him to the interrogation room where we started to question him. He told us he was a steel worker by trade, currently unemployed. He said he was originally from Alabama, that he'd been in California for approximately 2 years. After that, he lapsed into silence. We tried to question him about the dead woman, but we made little headway. The only admission we could get from him was that he killed the woman. Outside of that, he refused to say anything.
Now, how about it, Mitchell? What's the trouble? You called us, volunteered a confession. You said you killed the woman. You wanted to tell us a story. Now, why don't you answer our questions?
Jim, how about it? Aren't you feeling well? You want us to call a doctor? Jim?
You're not giving us much of an out, mister. You volunteered to make yourself a suspect in this thing. You say you killed the woman. Now, why don't you answer the questions?
We can't keep this up forever. You ought to know that. You haven't answered the question almost an hour now. Look, if you're not going to talk, Jim, there's only one thing we can do. We're going to have to book you.
Mitchell? Is that what you want?
Go ahead and book me. I killed her. Go on, book me.
But why can't you tell us the story? Now, you admit you killed the woman. Why won't you tell us about it?
Why should I? I killed her. That's all you have to know.
You said on the phone you'd tell us the whole story, didn't you? Now, what made you change your mind?
You got the story. I killed her. All there is to it.
You know better than that, Mitchell. You know the woman very well?
No, not very well.
What was her name?
Mary.
Mary what?
Mary, that's all. I met her in a bar. I didn't know her well. I killed her. That's all you got to know. I had to.
Why'd you have to, Jim?
I don't have to tell you. I had a reason. Good reason.
Robbery?
I don't have to say.
You have a fight with her? Lover's quarrel?
Maybe. What's the difference?
Well, this bar where you met Mary, that in downtown L.A., was it?
Yeah, it's downtown. She had it coming. I'm glad I did it.
Not worth much, huh?
She was when I met her.
Well, what happened? She go off the deep end?
Guess so. What's the difference? She's dead.
But why'd you turn yourself in, Jim? Figure you couldn't beat her?
Maybe.
How do you mean?
I could have stayed out of your way if I wanted to. For a while, anyway. I didn't want to.
Why not, Jim?
Good reason. I'm glad I killed her. She had it coming. Now go ahead and do what you want. I know what the rap is. I'll pay for it.
Well, if you're willing to take the rap, Jim, why not tell us the whole story, huh?
You got the story. I killed her. That's all you need.
Don't you want to brief us in on the details? How it happened, how it came about? Might be extenuating circumstances. You can't tell.
Well, how you mean?
Different things that might throw a new slant on the case. The court's not going to hand down a decision until they get the whole story.
You mean about Mary? I'll never tell them about her. Lousy things she did to me. Never tell anybody about it.
Must have been pretty bad, huh? I mean, the way you took it out on her.
She was rotten. All the way through. I had to kill her.
Well, what happened with the chloroform, Jim? Didn't it work fast enough for you?
Chloroform?
Yeah, huh? Didn't it react on her fast enough for you?
No, it didn't. I hated her.
Yeah, I guess you did. You must have had quite a scrap with her. Struggled quite a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, she fought me all the way. I got her, though. I hated her. Out of my mind, I hated her so much.
Well, we've been trying to figure it out, Jim. What'd you hit her with? I mean, around the head and on the neck. What'd you use? Piece of metal?
Yeah, angle iron.
Uh-huh.
Kind of lost my head. I kept beating her. She tried to scream, but I had my hand over her mouth, and then she fell down. She didn't make a sound after that.
I see. Well, how come you took her jewelry? I mean, if you just wanted to kill her, how is it you took all her valuables, too? Jim?
How about it, Mitchell?
Well, I don't know. Spur of the moment, I guess. I took them, but I didn't keep them. I threw them away. I don't remember well. I'm glad it's over.
All right, Jim. Now, what's this all about? You didn't kill that woman. You know that as well as we do.
Well, what are you talking about? Of course I killed her. She's dead, ain't she? How many times do I have to admit it?
The woman had one mark in her body, Mitchell, a small scratch on the wrist.
Huh?
Not a single wound on the head, none on the neck either.
Well, I killed her. That's all you got to know, not saying anything else.
All the woman's valuables weren't taken either, Jim. She was found with a couple of rings on her hands, an expensive watch, a bracelet, too. Now, come on, Jim. What's the angle here?
You can't prove I didn't do it. You can't prove that.
I think we can.
Now, why can't you just take my word for it? It's the queerest setup I ever saw. I'm willing to admit I killed her, and you won't believe me. What kind of cops are you, anyway?
Where'd you spend last night, Jim? Where were you?
I don't know. I don't remember.
You remember. Now, how about it?
It's the queerest setup I ever saw. Whole town. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah?
Look, I come here from Alabama. I told you that. I've been here for 22 months. A long time. It's almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Queerest town I ever saw. Thousands of people all over, millions of them. People all around you, all over the place, everywhere you go. I didn't know any of them. Not a one. They didn't know me. 22 months. Couldn't get to know nobody. I still don't. They don't know me either.
Yeah.
Tried to get acquainted. Just seemed I never could. Nobody knew me. Nobody cared. They didn't even know who I was. Well, what kind of town is that? 22 months right here. They don't even know who I am. Nobody knows. Living alone, you just get sick of it. Got sick and tired of it.
That's what brought all this on, huh?
Well, I mean, at least they'll notice me. They'll know I'm here. I killed a woman. They'll know who I am now.
You ever spend any time in a hospital, Mitchell? Institution?
Now, what'd you have to ask that for? Just because I want to know people, want to notice me? That doesn't make me crazy. Can't be alone all the time. You got to have somebody notice you.
Were you ever in an institution, Jim?
Just once, only a couple of months. It wasn't anything. Look, can't you just forget what I said? I told you I killed a woman. The papers are going to be out pretty soon, pictures and things, probably a big write-up.
Yeah.
Well, can't we let it go at that? I killed her. Just forget the rest?
No, I'm afraid not.
Why not? We'll just make out it's that way. People get to know me anyway. At least they'll know I'm around. I won't be alone.
No use worrying, Jim.
Huh?
You won't be alone anymore. 1:38 p.m. We continued to question the self-accused suspect, James Mitchell, and he finally told us that he'd been confined for a period of 18 months in a state mental hospital in Alabama. That had been more than 3 years before. The questioning also left no doubt in our mind that Mitchell had nothing at all to do with the death of the unidentified woman. A sister of Mitchell's living in Alabama was contacted, and she agreed to come out west as soon as possible to look after her brother. In the meantime, he was delivered to the care of psychiatrists at the county hospital. The incident of a man confessing guilt of a crime of which he's wholly innocent certainly wasn't anything new. Like police officers all over the country, all over the world, we've come to accept it as almost a routine part of a criminal investigation. Most of the time, the would-be criminal's suffering with mental trouble. Sometimes it's a thirst for notoriety. In any event, they all have to be checked, every one of them. It means time, trouble, and money. Hours of cautious interrogation. More hours of checking stories that have basis only in the imagination of a sick mind. They slow the investigation, they waste hundreds of man-hours, but like anonymous leads or would-be witnesses, they can't be ignored. It's part of the job. Saturday, October 18th, the newspapers continued to cooperate by giving us front-page space to the story of the unidentified woman.
Joe?
Yeah, how'd you do?
Nothing. Identification wasn't even close. How about Brian and Lopez? What'd they do on that call of theirs?
Well, they're over at the morgue now with a boy, 16-year-old. Kid was pretty wrought up when he came in.
Well, we sure had a parade of them. All last night, all this morning.
Well, it doesn't hurt our chances any. The more, the better.
I suppose so. Not going to make much headway if we can't identify her. Any answers on the all points we got out on it?
Yeah, 4 of them. They all been checked. Nothing.
Chewing gum, Joe? New kind, tangerine flavor.
No thanks.
How about that check of the hospitals around town? Anything show up there yet?
No, not so far. The scar on the woman's leg was from an operation, all right. Doc figures it might not have been done in a hospital, though. It was a minor operation. Could have been done in a doctor's office, maybe.
That'd stop it, sure. Tough enough checking hospitals for a record of the operation. Next to impossible to check every doctor in town for it.
Well, even then we could miss. Don't know where the woman's from. She could have had the operation done anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get it. Homicide. Friday talking. Yeah, Tom. I know. You did? That's so. Yeah, okay. Fine. You bet. Thanks, Tom. It was Brian. He and Lopi are driving that boy over to Georgia Street, the 16-year-old.
What happened?
Well, they took the boy to the morgue. They showed him the body. Asked him if he recognized it.
What'd she say?
It's his mother. 2:05 p.m. Frank and I left the office and drove over to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital. The 16-year-old boy who had identified the dead woman as his mother was being treated for shock and hysteria. The youngster had told Brian and Lopez that his name was Arnold Hopkins and that he'd been living with his mother at a Norwood Street address. After he was given a sedative and recovered himself a bit, the boy was driven to the home of his aunt and uncle out near Barnesdale Park. That night, Frank and I called on the boy and found him sufficiently recovered to answer a few questions. He confirmed his identity of the body he'd viewed that afternoon as that of his mother, Mrs. Jeanette Hopkins. He said he was an only child and that his father was dead. He told us his mother had been working for the past 6 years as coast representative for an Eastern cosmetics firm. We asked him what had happened the night his mother disappeared.
The phone just rang about, when we were finishing dinner.
Mm-hmm.
About 8 o'clock, maybe quarter after.
Uh-huh.
Well, when Ma hung up, she said something important come up. She had to go out to see somebody. She said she had to see him right away. She got her coat and left. It's the last time I saw her.
Well, who was she going to see, Arnold? Did she tell you?
No, she didn't. I heard her talking on the phone, though. Heard her say Leo. She said it a couple of times. Leo.
Where was she going to meet this person, Arnold? Did you happen to overhear that?
No, I didn't. I think she said, okay, I'll meet you there, Leo, and she hung up. Then she got her coat, kissed me goodbye, and she went out.
Did she leave on foot or was she driving, you remember?
Oh, on foot. My mother didn't drive.
Who's Leo, so? Your mother ever talk about him?
Heard her talking to him on the phone a couple of times. That's about all.
Well, do you know where he lives? What he looks like? Can you tell us anything about him at all?
No, sir, nothing. I wouldn't know him if I saw him.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
The only way you can prove to yourself that Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes is to compare them with the brand you've been smoking.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Your money back plus postage. If you're not convinced, Fatima is better than your present king-size cigarette.
Just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
More and more of your friends are switching to king-size Fatimas every day.
Compare them yourself tomorrow. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack and enjoy the added protection of Fatima quality.
Saturday, October 18th, 8:30 p.m. Frank Smith and I continued interviewing the dead woman's son, 16-year-old Arnold Hopkins. The big lead pointed in the direction of the man known as Leo, who telephoned Mrs. Hopkins Thursday night, little more than an hour before she died, and made an appointment to meet her. It was a good lead, but it didn't go too far. All the boy could tell us was that the man's name was Leo. He'd heard his mother address a man by that name on the telephone several times, but that was the extent of it. He didn't know Leo's last name. He didn't know where he lived. He had no idea where his mother was to meet the man the night she died. We talked to the boy's aunt and uncle, the dead woman's brother and sister-in-law, but they couldn't help us either. Frank Smith and I obtained a list of all of Mrs. Hopkins' friends and business associates known to the son and the aunt and the uncle. We spent the rest of the weekend checking with them. Most of them gave us pretty much the same story. Mrs. Hopkins was well-liked and well-respected, both in her business and private life. She was devoted to her teenage son. She didn't drink, and socially her behavior was beyond question. She attended church regularly. She was active in several women's clubs engaged in social and religious work. None of the people we talked to could think of any reason that she would want to end her own life. All of them denied any knowledge of the man known as Leo. Monday afternoon, October 20th, Frank and I had another meeting with the victim's son, Arnold Hopkins. We had him check over the personal effects found on the body.
Yes, sir, that's hers. The other ring, too.
How about this bracelet, sir?
Yes, sir. She always wore that. My dad gave her to her, I think. When he was alive, I mean. She always wore it.
Mm-hmm. Now, the wristwatch, 2 rings, the bracelet, and this lapel pin here. This about it, sir?
Yes, sir, I guess so. You have her necklace, too.
How's that?
My mother's necklace. She was wearing it that night. She had it on when she left the house. Didn't you find it?
What kind of necklace is it, son? What's it look like?
Oh, it's made like the bracelet is. That one there. Mm-hmm. See, the two of them go together to set.
Your mother wear expensive jewelry like that every day, did she?
No, sir. She wore the bracelet quite a bit, not the necklace, though. She only wore that when she was dressed up. I thought about it yesterday. I meant to tell you about it.
What's that, son?
Well, right after she got the phone call that night, when she told me she had to go out.
Yeah?
Well, she went back and got her coat, and then she came in the living room and kissed me goodbye. She had the necklace in her hand.
You sure she took it with her?
Oh, yes, sir, I'm positive. After she kissed me goodbye, she went over to the mirror, and I saw her put the necklace on. She was wearing it when she left. I didn't think much about it till later on. Most of the time, she only wears it when she dresses up. She wasn't very dressed up that night.
Joe? Yeah. Can you describe the necklace for us, son? Exactly what it looks like?
Yes, sir, I think I can.
When you saw your mother with a necklace on, did you think to ask her about it?
Yeah, I did. She said she was wearing it because she wanted to look pretty. She was going to meet a good friend.
Mm-hmm. And she didn't say where?
No, sir. I guess she was wrong, huh? About her necklace, I mean.
No, son. About her friend. Monday, 3:18 p.m. We got a description of the necklace from the Hopkins boy, confirmed it with his aunt and uncle, and then we double-checked it at the jeweler's, where it had been purchased. After that, we contacted the pawn shop detail and burglary division. The necklace and its description was put on the stolen property list, and copies were sent to second-hand jewelry stores and pawn shops throughout the area. We also got out a broadcast and an APB on it. 4:15 the following afternoon, we got a reply from the San Diego Police Department. A pawn shop owner down there had reported taking in the necklace the Friday before, which matched the description of the one we were looking for. The man who pawned the necklace listed his name in the pawn shop's buy book as Raymond Butler. San Diego officers had checked out the home address that he'd given. It was a vacant lot. The necklace was sent back to Los Angeles, where it was identified as Mrs. Hopkins. The description of the man who'd pawned the necklace was forwarded from San Diego together with a photostatic copy of the suspect's signature, and we got out an all-points bulletin on him. 2 days passed. Nothing. Along with Bryan and Lopez, we continued checking all public places in the general area where the body of Mrs. Hopkins had been found. You got anything, Frank?
Talked to a man by the name of Wagner, Joe. He told me she used to do a lot of traveling, business trips, most of them to San Diego. Wagner says he heard she had a boyfriend down there, a tall, dark-haired fellow. That's all, no name.
I get it. Homicide Friday. What? Oh, yeah, Lopey. Where? Checks out, does it? Yeah, that's good. Fine. Okay, thanks, Lopey. Yeah, right away.
Anything, Joe?
Lopez, he and Brian just checked a bar out in the neighborhood where the body was found. They talked to the bartender in the place, showed him the description of the man who pawned the necklace. Bartender says he knows the man.
You sure?
Pretty sure. He told Brian and Lopey that the man's either a boxer or a wrestler, something like that anyway.
You know the man's name, where he lives?
Says his name's Taylor. No home address.
You know his first name?
Yeah, Leo. 1:25 p.m. After interviewing 4 other people who were in the bar the night of Mrs. Hopkins' death, Lopez and Brian checked back in at the office. They told us that at least one of the 4 persons they talked to, in addition to the bartender, was sure that the description of the suspect who pawned the necklace fitted a man known as Leo Taylor, who was in the bar the previous Thursday night. He was seen in the place between 8:30 and 9 p.m., and he was seen with a woman answering Mrs. Hopkins' general description. The bartender had no idea where the man lived, but he seemed fairly certain of the man's name, Leo Taylor, and his occupation, either wrestling or boxing. 5:05 p.m. We made a run on Taylor's name and description through R&I, and we got a make. We checked his handwriting, and that matched out also. He had 1 previous arrest for assault and disorderly conduct. His residence was a West 11th Street address. We checked it out, but he'd moved 6 months before. The landlady had no forwarding address on him, but she told us one of the places he used to frequent was a gym on South Olive down near Olympic. We ran it down.
All right, come on. I'm getting tired of come on.
I checked with a fellow in the office over there, Joe. Says the man we once taking a shower back there, locker room.
All right. In here? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Hey, excuse me. Your name Leo Taylor?
How's that?
I said, are you Leo Taylor?
Yeah, that's right. What is it?
Police officers would like to talk to you.
Oh, I'm taking a shower right now. You want to wait a while?
Well, keep, Taylor. We want to talk to you now.
All right.
All right, what's the rush? What's it all about?
I want to talk to you downtown.
What do you want me downtown for? A routine check. Like to ask you a few questions.
About what?
Jeanette Hopkins.
That's so? What about her?
When's the last time you saw the woman, Taylor?
I don't know. A couple of months ago. At least that. Why?
We can talk about it downtown.
Well, let's talk now. It'll take me a little time to get dressed. What's the pitch?
You know as well as we do.
You want to throw me that shirt, Mac? Thanks. What do you mean I know as well as you do? Know what?
No rush, Leo. We can talk downtown.
I read about it in the papers. It's a terrible thing. I was going to look her up one of these days. It's too bad.
You live in Los Angeles, Taylor?
Yeah, why?
Ever get down to San Diego?
Once in a while, not too often. You don't think I had anything to do with it, do you?
How do you mean, Leo? With what?
I mean, Jeanette, she's dead. You don't think I had a hand in it, do you?
I tell you, I'm on a level with you, Leo. We've been on this thing a week. We've got you placed in San Diego. We've got you placed here. You say you haven't seen Mrs. Hopkins for 2 months. We can do a lot better than that. You were with her in San Diego 2 weeks ago. You were drinking with her in a bar out there last Thursday night. You were with her 20 minutes before she died. We got all we need, Leo.
Got my coat there, Graven?
Check the pockets, Frank.
Yeah.
Gonna take a lot of proof. I guess you know that. Gonna take a lot of it.
We got it.
Better have. Let's see. Keys, wallet, comb. Yeah. Okay, let's go.
No, just a minute, Leo.
Yeah?
Pawn ticket here. You forgot it.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On January 28th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 89, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, there's not much I can add to what you've already heard about Fatima's. If you smoke them, I know you'll agree with me that no other king-size cigarette can match Fatima quality. Now, if you haven't tried them yet, prove it to yourself. Buy a pack and give them a try. I wish you would kind of check up on what we've been telling you. Compare Fatima's with any other king-size cigarette. You'll like Fatima's better flavor and aroma. It's extra mild and soothing smoke. You'll find Fatima gives you more for your money. Yes, sir. In Fatima, the difference is quality. Buy a pack tomorrow. Fatima.
When confronted with the evidence and testimony against him, Leo Francis Taylor broke down and confessed to the murder of Mrs. Jeanette Hopkins. She'd been paying blackmail to Taylor in order to keep their affair secret, but a month before her death, she refused to pay him any more. Taylor threatened her again, and she agreed to give him the necklace as a final payoff. At their meeting, Taylor demanded cash. His victim threatened him with arrest, and he administered the chloroform. Taylor was tried and found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to a life term in the state penitentiary. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Herb Ellis, Mick Perrin, Gil Stratton, Jack Crucian. Script by Jim Mosier. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
King-size Fatima, made by the same people who make popular Chesterfield cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Each Thursday night, it's Counter Spy on NBC.